Chapter 1101. There was a touch of grievance in her voice, which sounded quite coquettish. Hearing that, Yu Lily turned her head and looked at him in surprise. As soon as she turned her head, she met Oh Ming's dark brown eyes. They were very deep, bright, and so beautiful that it made people lose their minds. Oh Ming buried his face in her neck and whispered, "My legs are so sore. Give me a massage." "How could it be stolen?" "I don't know. I put it in my coat pocket. I wanted to call you, but I found it was gone." Oh Ming's voice was low. "Fortunately, I have a good memory. I knew your house was here, so I walked for more than 20 minutes. I didn't expect you to arrive later than me." Yu Lily was about to speak, but Oh Ming took her hand and touched his thigh. With a coquettish voice, she whispered, "Sore." Yu Lily lost her temper. After pulling her hand back, she glared at him and then pulled him into the room. Closing the door, Yu Lily walked in, loosened the muscles and bones of her hands, and said, "Lie down, and I will give you a massage." "Okay." Oh Ming smiled and took off his suit jacket. Then he pulled Yu Lily's pillow over and lay down. Yu Lily also took off her coat, then took off his shoes and socks, and began to massage his legs. Oh Ming originally just wanted to make her feel better, but he didn't expect that Yu Lily's skill was really good. "It's so comfortable." Oh Ming squinted and looked down at her. Yu Lily lowered her head, and her face was indescribably serious. Her eyebrows were lowered, her lips were pursed, and her face was decorated with light makeup. Under the soft light in the room, she looked even more gentle and peaceful. So beautiful. Today's Yu Lily was even more beautiful than before. Yu Lily seemed to notice his gaze and looked up at him. Then she lowered her head and said while massaging, "When I was in the capital, I had a beauty salon." Oh Ming didn't know there was such a story, so he was a little surprised and asked, "Why didn't you do it later?" "That beauty salon's business was not good, so it closed down. Later, I went to work as a computer." While speaking, she put her legs together and massaged Oh Ming's calves. Just by listening to it, Oh Ming could tell that it wasn't easy. He reached out to hold her hand, and Yu Lily's movements stopped. She looked up and saw the softness on Oh Ming's face. Oh Ming took her hand and let her lean on his chest. He held her in his arms and whispered, "From now on, you can just draw at home. I'm just painting now." Yu Lily placed her hands on his chest and looked up at him. "My life is much better than before. Even without you, I can still live. Even without you, I can still live very well." There was nothing they couldn't get through. It was impossible for anyone to not be able to survive without each other. There was a look of pity on Oh Ming's face, and he gently stroked her hair. Yu Lily's hair grew very fast, and now it reached her neck. Her bangs covered her eyebrows, making her face look smaller and thinner. "It'll be better in the future, I promise." Hearing that, Yu Lily's lips curled up. She leaned forward and lowered her head to kiss him on the lips. Chapter 1102. The passionate kiss was overwhelming. Yu Lily placed her hands on his chest and passionately responded to his passion. His lips gradually moved down from her lips to her chin, her jaw, her earlobe, the tip of her ear. Her skin, which was already fair and tender, gradually turned pink under the heat. His big hands gently unbuttoned her blouse, and wandered around her wantonly. Yu Lily narrowed her eyes and moved her hands up his chest. One hand circled his neck, and the other hand gently unbuttoned his shirt. They had known each other for a long, long time. Many things didn't need to be said. They had a tacit understanding. The temperature in the room was very high, and both of them were covered with a thin layer of moisture. However, at the last step, Yu Lily suddenly stopped and pushed him away. Oh Ming's peach blossom eyes were full of lust. At the same time, he was confused and confused. Looking at Yu Lily's nervous expression, he asked, "What's wrong? Today is New Year's Eve. Why don't you go home?" Your mother seems a little fierce. Don't go back and encourage your father to hit you." Hearing that, Ming laughed and reached out to pinch her nose. He said helplessly, "You're exaggerating. You'd better go home. After all, today is New Year's Eve." In the past, Ming had never spent New Year's Eve with Yu Lily. Even when they were together like today, it had never happened before. It was because of Ming's upbringing that he had persisted for so many years. This year, his mother knew that he was with her. If he didn't go home, he was afraid that his fate would be very ugly. As for Ming, when he heard this, he automatically understood it to mean something else. Looking at the woman under him, Ming's eyes seemed to be covered with a thin layer of mist. He leaned down slightly and touched her cheek with his big hand. His thumb gently rubbed her face. His voice was a little hoarse because of his lust. He whispered, "Are you not ready yet? Are you cold, not cured yet?" Yu Lily blinked and shook her head. No. When Ming heard that word, he calmed down. He bowed his head and sealed the rest of her words in her mouth. At the same time, with one move, Yu Lily groaned and subconsciously reached out to hug him. Her breathing became rapid. Ming released her and stopped moving. He asked, "Does it hurt?" Yu Lily's breathing quickened as she replied, "It doesn't hurt." Oh, Ming opened his mouth and bit her collarbone. His voice was muffled as he said, "I'm not going back today. Let's spend the new year together." When Yu Lily heard that, she was secretly happy and unconsciously raised her lips. She opened her eyes and noticed that Ming was also looking at her. Yu Lily felt a little uncomfortable and passively withstood his attack. Waves of feeling came over her, and her hands holding him tightened. Gasping for air, Yu Lily stuttered, "That New Year's isn't like this, what's it like?" Compared to Yu Lily, Ming's voice was much more normal. It made Yu Lily's face heat up. But she still hugged him and said, "New Year, watch the Spring Festival Gala. Countdown. New Year. Slow down." Chapter 1103. Yu Lily was shocked. She quickly refused and said, "No." However, Ming had already picked her up. "No, no." Yu Lily clung to him tightly and whispered, "Stay inside. We can go out when we're done. What if Yi Qianqian suddenly comes back?" "She won't come back. She went home for the New Year." "No." Yu Lily resisted loudly and clamped her legs together. "Stay inside, or you'll what?" Ming asked with a smile. "I'll bite you." Because Ming didn't make any big movements, Yu Lily's voice was much clearer. When Ming heard that, he raised his eyebrows slightly and put her back on the bed. "If you want me, I'll fulfill your wish." Ha. Yu Lily was about to speak, but then she couldn't say anything. Yu Lily had no idea how many times she had done it, but she was exhausted. Her eyelids drooped, and she felt sleepy. Ming pulled a shirt and put it on. Then, he carried her to the bathroom and helped her bathe and wipe her body. After the two of them finished bathing together, Ming carried her back again. He put on a shirt. When he came back to his senses, Yu Lily was already asleep. Smiling, Ming looked at the time. It was already past 11:40. There were only 10 minutes left until the first day of the new year. After putting on the shirt, he carried her to the living room and turned on the TV. Many TVs were broadcasting the Spring Festival Gala. This is the atmosphere of the new year. When he turned around, Yu Lily had already opened her eyes and was watching the TV. Ming held her in his arms and said, "The countdown is about to start. Does this count as us spending 2 years together?" Yu Lily turned her head away and snorted. She closed her eyes slightly, but her lips were full of smiles. Ming put her on his lap, held her hand in his, and played with her fingers. He said, "Tonight, you and my mother had a bit of a fight. My mother is a person who cares a lot about her reputation. You contradicted her like that, so she will definitely bear a grudge against you. That's why I asked you to apologize to her." She looked into his eyes, and his eyes moved from her fingers to her face. "That Uncle Wan is my mother's best friend. However, it was my first time seeing him. Fortunately, he helped me out of the situation. Otherwise, it would have been even uglier." As she spoke, she sighed faintly. "Why can't you read my eyes? Next time when I ask you to do something in front of my mother, you must listen to me. Otherwise, it won't be easy in the future." His words made it clear that he was treating Yu Lily as a member of the O family. But, Yu Lily looked down and said, "Your mother hates me very much. I could tell from the many things she said last night that she was deliberately trying to embarrass me. I will make her accept you." O Ming turned her face in his hands and said, "Let's have a child. When the time comes, she will have to accept you even if she doesn't want to." Speaking of this, O Ming lowered his eyes to look at her lower abdomen. He gently stroked it and said, "Could it be that my child is already here?" Yu Lily also bowed her head, feeling a little magical. She reached out and placed her hand on his. She even calmed down to feel it. After all, from the time they met until now, they had only done it a few times. But each time, they had not taken any protective measures. Could it be that without knowing it, I am already pregnant? Chapter 1104. Marriage. What a sacred word. All Yu Lily wanted was to marry O Ming and be with him forever. She looked up and found that O Ming had been looking at her. His peach blossom eyes were bright at that moment. It looked like two bright mirrors, clearly reflecting her, and only her. "Let's welcome the new year. There are only 30 seconds left." The infectious voice came from the television. When O Ming heard it, he smiled and said, "The countdown has begun." Yu Lily felt a little magical. She snuggled into his arms and whispered, "This seems to be the first time we're celebrating the new year together." "Yes." O Ming gazed at her and kissed her on the cheek. "For the next 50 times, we'll be together." 10, 9, 8, 7, O Ming kissed her on the lips. The person on the television was still shouting, 3, 2, 1. O Ming released her and said in a low voice, "Happy New Year." Yu Lily felt a lump in her throat. She hugged him and replied, "Happy New Year." O Ming chuckled. After turning off the television, he carried her back to the room. When Yu Lily woke up, the sky was already bright. Yu Lily felt a sense of security when she felt the warmth from his body. She reached out and hugged him. Yu Lily burrowed into his arms. O Ming was awakened by her. When he opened a corner of his eyes, he saw her dark head. The corners of his lips curled up a little. He stretched out his long legs and placed them on top of her. With a hook, the two of them were pressed together seamlessly. Yu Lily maintained that position for a while. Soon, she couldn't take it anymore. She moved and said, "It's uncomfortable." O Ming released her and said, "It's the first day of the new year. Where do you want to go?" When Yu Lily heard that, she looked up at him. All she saw was his slightly pale chin. She poked it with her finger and asked, "Don't you need to go home?" His chin was tickled by her poking. O Ming grabbed her naughty hand and asked, "Do you want to go?" "No, then don't go." O Ming looked down at her and whispered, "Are you hungry?" "I'm not hungry." When O Ming heard that, he nodded slightly in satisfaction. His big hand slipped into her clothes, and he said in a low and charming voice, "Then let's do some exercise." "No. It's itchy, don't touch there, n." After the shower, Yu Lily couldn't stand the hunger. After the two of them got dressed, Yu Lily wiped something on her face and prepared to leave. O Ming was still wearing the same clothes as yesterday. After Yu Lily came out, they went downstairs together. There were many restaurants nearby. After the two of them ate a little and walked out, they inadvertently saw a flashy Bentley driving to the entrance of their neighborhood. Such a car was not something that ordinary people could afford to drive. Yu Lily looked at the car and found it familiar. On the other hand, Ming had obviously recognized the owner of the car. He pulled Yu Lily along and whispered, "Let's go. Stop right there." Xiao Ziqing's voice rang out, and it shocked Yu Lily. He turned around and saw Xiao Ziqing dressed in a pink fur coat and elegant makeup. She was very eye-catching. He was looking for Ming. Chapter 1105. Yu Lily was a little confused when she heard that. Was this guy serious? Isn't he supposed to be obedient to his mother? Now he wants to elope? Before Yu Lily could react, she was pulled by Ming and ran forward. Ming's legs were long and fast, so he ran very fast. Yu Lily couldn't keep up with him when he pulled her. She stumbled and almost fell. Ming's eyes and hands were sharp. He immediately caught Yu Lily and saved her from falling. When Ming's mother saw their behavior, she was so angry that her lungs were about to explode. She shouted, "Ming, get back here." But, it was Ming who had instigated it. How could he stop? No matter how loud Xiao Ziqing shouted, Ming had no intention of stopping. Instead, he pulled Yu Lily farther and farther away. Little B****. Xiao Ziqing's face was red with anger. She turned back to the car and said, "Catch up. Hurry up." The luxurious Bentley was immediately started and chased in the direction that Ming and Yu Lily were running. It was close to the train tracks. When Yu Lily was pulled across the tracks by Ming, she always felt a sense of crisis. She shouted, "Ming, slow down. What if a train comes?" Ming looked back at Yu Lily and chuckled. He seemed to be in a good mood. The roar of the train came from the tracks that had been crossed behind them. The deafening sound completely blocked out the bustling scene behind them. Ming pulled her and shouted excitedly, "At most, we will die together. Yu Lily, marry me." Yu Lily was shocked. She followed him at a crazy pace and ran all the way. The wind was blowing. It was a little cold. But, there was an unknown heat in Yu Lily's heart. It was quickly spreading and burning her whole body. Ta! The long whistle of the train came from the front. Not far away, a train was moving forward at high speed. Yu Lily was shocked. She quickly pulled Ming and screamed, "Don't go over there. It's dangerous." Ming's footsteps quickly came to a halt. He stopped just one step away from the train tracks. At the same time, Ming stopped and turned his head. He looked into Yu Lily's peach blossom eyes, and his eyes were shining. Such a scorching gaze seemed to be filled with deep love, and it made Yu Lily's heart tremble. Boom boom boom, as the train passed by, it caused the surroundings to tremble. It was as if the whole person was shaken to the point that they were about to fly. Ming hugged her with both hands and whispered in her ear, "Marry me. We'll be together in the future. Your mother, act first and report later. What can she do? Even if she doesn't agree with us being together, I won't divorce you. Legally, she has no right to interfere with our relationship." Boom boom boom, the sound of the train continued, with a crazy vibration, just like Yu Lily's mood at the moment. Yu Lily looked at him as if she was looking at a lunatic and asked, "Are you crazy? Don't you know if I'm crazy or not?" Ming chuckled. He looked up and saw the Bentley behind Yu Lily. Chapter 1106. Eloping. Inexplicably, Yu Lily felt a little excited in the face of Ming's crazy attitude. The train behind Ming walked away, and the loud roar gradually faded away. Behind him, the sun shone on him, making him look like a god. His eyes were bright and affectionate. Yu Lily subconsciously raised her lips and nodded her head. In a flash, Ming chuckled, took her hand, and ran forward. When the people in the Bentley saw them run again, they were even more furious. Yu Lily subconsciously looked back at the Bentley behind her and found that the car had already taken a detour. Seeing Oh Ming's mother being defeated, Yu Lily was secretly happy. However, when she looked back, she didn't find that the people in front of her had stopped. When she looked back, she found that they had reached another road. Just on the left side, a car drove over. Yu Lily screamed and subconsciously stepped back, but before she could move, she was pulled by a strong arm and held in his arms. Yu Lily's heart was beating fast. Obviously, she was very scared. Looking at the handsome face in front of her, she quietly breathed a sigh of relief and said, "It was too dangerous just now. What if I had been hit?" Oh Ming stood on the side of the road with her in his arms and whispered, "It's okay. I will protect you. What if I had been hit? Even if I didn't die, at least my hands and feet would have been broken. That would have been ugly." Yu Lily was a little angry and patted him. Just now, she didn't realize that she was on the side of the road. If Oh Ming hadn't pulled her in time, she would have been hit by the car and lying on the side of the road. When he heard Yu Lily's words, Oh Ming's lips curled up in a smile. In a low voice, he said, "What are you afraid of? You won't look bad no matter what. If you break your hand, I'll feed you and help you bathe. If you break your leg, I'll carry you on my back and take care of you for the rest of your life." Hearing Oh Ming's words, Yu Lily only felt excited, but she didn't know whether he was joking or serious. But soon, she pouted and said, "I won't give you this chance." Oh Ming pinched her face and said, "The light is green." Yu Lily turned her head and found that many people were looking at her. She was a little embarrassed and immediately pushed Oh Ming away and walked across the road. Looking at her back, Oh Ming felt a sense of satisfaction in his heart. He stepped forward and took her hand. Following her, he said, "What about me? If my hands and feet were broken, what would you do? That day won't come." Yu Lily didn't look back. She held his hand and walked forward. What if there is? There were many people coming and going. It was the first day of the new year, and it was very lively everywhere. Yu Lily's grip on Oh Ming's hand tightened, and the distance between them grew closer and closer. Oh Ming walked to her side and put his arm around her shoulder. "If I did, what would you do?" Yu Lily thought for a moment and said with a smile, "I'm with you because you are handsome. If you break your hands and feet, you won't be handsome anymore. At that time, I will leave you and not be with you." "How dare you?" Oh Ming knew that she was joking, but he still felt a little unhappy. He pinched her waist in the crowd and said, "If you dare to sneak away, I will definitely kill you." Chapter 1107. Yu Lily was very familiar with the nearby road conditions. Up ahead was a famous local attraction in Kingstown. Couples called it Yulao Lake. There were many sculptures by the Yulao Lake, including the Earth God, Goddess of Mercy, and various Buddha statues. These sculptures stood around the Yulao Lake as if they were guarding something within it. Many couples would choose to come here to pray, throw coins into the water, and release lotus lanterns at night. When Oh Ming said elope, did he mean to come here to commit to his life? Thinking of this, Yu Lily's heart became sweeter and sweeter, and her footsteps became slower and slower. After running for less than a minute, Yu Lily turned around and saw that Oh Ming was blocked by the crowd, unable to catch up. She smiled proudly. He waved at Zhang Xian, and many people turned to look at him. When Oh Ming saw her like this, a look of helplessness appeared in his bright peach blossom eyes. At the same time, there was also a strong sense of affection. It was as if he was looking at his most beloved person. It was so sweet that one couldn't help but be immersed in it. Oh Ming was relatively tall, and he was very conspicuous in the crowd. When she saw Oh Ming's gaze, the softness in the deepest part of her heart was touched. After confirming that he had seen her, the wave became smaller and smaller. In the end, Yu Lily raised her hand and stood in place, waiting for Oh Ming to come. Oh Ming looked at her as if he was looking at a naughty child. He slowly pushed through the crowd and walked over. But, suddenly, his arm tightened. The other party had used a lot of strength, and Oh Ming was shocked. He turned his head and saw that it was Xiao Ziqing's bodyguard, Guan Yun. Bodyguard Guan was very tall, and he was dressed in black. He was holding Oh Ming's hand tightly. "Young master, madam is waiting for you in the car." "Hurry back," bodyguard Guan said. His voice was a little stiff, and he couldn't hear any emotion. Oh Ming struggled for a moment and said, "I'm not going back. Tell my mother that I'll be back later." "Young master, madam's illness has acted up." Bodyguard Guan's voice finally had some fluctuations, and he sounded a little nervous. When Oh Ming heard that, his heart skipped a beat. He turned his head and asked, "Didn't you bring medicine?" "I did," bodyguard Guan said. But before Oh Ming could heave a sigh of relief, he heard bodyguard Guan speak again. He said, "But madam refuses to take the medicine now. She said that if you don't go back, she won't take the medicine and will die in front of you." As he spoke, his grip on Oh Ming's hand tightened. When Oh Ming heard that, he was so angry that he laughed. He roared, "Motherf asterisk cur, is she crazy? She's using this method to force me to go back." This was not the first time. The last time she threatened him to break up with you Lily, she had used the same method. It was despicable. However, he couldn't help but be moved by such a method. No matter how despicable Xiao Ziqing was, she was still his mother who had given birth to him and raised him for decades. When bodyguard Guan heard that, he could hear the nervousness in Oh Ming's voice. He continued, "Madam asked me to ask you this. She is your mother. For a woman, you're willing to sacrifice your mother's life. Is it really comfortable for you to be together? If she's dead, then she was killed by you and that woman. F***ck. Oh Ming cursed. He subconsciously looked at Yu Lily, who was in front of him. Yu Lily seemed to have sensed that something was wrong with him. She was trying her best to walk in his direction. Oh Ming's heart softened, and he said, "I'll let her know." Chapter 1108. Oh Ming was caught off guard and stumbled. When he looked up in Yu Lily's direction, he realized that she had been covered by the crowd. He couldn't see her anymore. Bodyguard Guan forcefully pulled him in the opposite direction. Oh Ming looked away from Yu Lily and yelled, "I'll walk on my own. Where's my mom?" "In front. Hurry up." Bodyguard Guan had always been an honest man. From the looks of it, he couldn't be lying. F***ck. Oh Ming cursed under his breath. He turned around and ran in the direction bodyguard Guan had pointed out. After being squeezed by the crowd, Yu Lily couldn't see where Oh Ming was anymore. She turned left and right, but she couldn't see him. She shouted, "Oh!" However, there were too many people and too much noise. Yu Lily's voice didn't travel far in the crowd before it was drowned out by the noise. Yu Lily turned back to where Oh Ming had been. No matter how hard she looked, she couldn't find any trace of Oh Ming. With her heart empty, Yu Lily stood where she was and looked left and right. However, all he could see was a sea of black heads, and where was that person? Oh Ming was led by bodyguard Guan and ran for a long time. Finally, after crossing two main roads and exiting the scenic area, they stopped. There were very few people there, and the highway was not far away. A familiar black Bentley was parked on the side of the road facing him. The chauffeur was in the driver's seat, but Xiao Ziqing was nowhere to be seen. Oh Ming panted and turned to look at bodyguard Guan. "Where's my mom?" "She's in the back seat. Lying down." Bodyguard Guan pulled him toward the car. Oh Ming felt that something was wrong, but he didn't think too much about it. He walked toward the car in front of him. He went up to open the back seat door. When he did, he saw Xiao Ziqing sitting inside. She looked noble and graceful. She turned her head and looked at him calmly. She didn't look like she was having a seizure. When Ming saw that, he knew he had fallen into a trap. Annoyed, he was about to walk back when bodyguard Guan held him down and shoved him into the car. After the bodyguard closed the door, the driver immediately locked it. Ming was flustered and exasperated. He slammed the car door and roared, "You lied to me." Facing her son's anger, Xiao Ziqing was indifferent. She said calmly, "Go home. It's the new year. What's the point of hanging out with a mistress?" "Shut up." Ming was even more furious. He roared, "She is not a mistress. She is my girlfriend." Xiao Ziqing looked at Ming and felt that he was hopelessly crazy. His eyes and expression were as if he was looking at a lunatic. "Ming, you're crazy. You've been infatuated with that woman. You're crazy." "Mom, I know exactly what I'm doing. If you want me to go back with you, sure, but let me go first. I'll say goodbye to her and I'll go back with you immediately." "Impossible." Xiao Ziqing denied without hesitation. "Do you really think I'm stupid? Will you come back after you leave?" It was impossible to use the same move twice. Xiao Ziqing knew exactly what was going on. With a cold expression, she said to the driver, "Drive faster." The driver obeyed and sped up. Ming closed his eyes. "She will be waiting for me there. If she can't find me, what should I do?" Dash. Chapter 1109. Look for you? Do you really think that woman cares about you that much? When she can't find you, she'll naturally go back. Ming's eyes darkened, and he shook his head. "No, she'll definitely think that we're lost and wait for me to find her. You Lily wouldn't leave. Even if she didn't see him return, she would still wait for him. Look for him." Seeing Ming like this, Xiao Ziqing's heart ached. After all, as a mother, no one wanted to see their son unhappy. But how could a woman like you Lily be worthy of her son? Now, Ming's status was extraordinary, and he had a certain say in all of Kingstown. But, what if? Ming, you have everything now. If one day you fall from your current position, that woman will definitely not be by your side. That kind of woman is vain and fawns over the rich and powerful. If one day you are in trouble, not only will she not be by your side, she might even hit you when you are down. I have seen many women like that. You are bewitched now, but in the future, you will understand your mother's intentions. In this world, only your mother is truly good to you. Do you know that?" Ming looked at Xiao Ziqing and said, "Ming, you have everything you want now, but if one day you fall from your current position, that woman will definitely not be by your side." Ming looked at Xiao Ziqing and said seriously, "Mom, this woman is not what you think she is. You Lily is an orphan and has no parents, but after all these years, I know her too well. She's not the kind of person you think she is. She's better than Shen Manting, 100 times, 1,000 times better." Seeing Ming so serious, Xiao Ziqing was even more furious. She shouted, "Why can't you understand? What kind of drug did that woman use on you to make you so loyal to her? Ming, don't make me angry, okay? I don't have much time left to live. Do you really want me to die?" Her words were so serious that Ming fell silent and didn't make a sound. Gently taking Xiao Ziqing's hand away, Ming closed his eyes, straightened his body, and sat in his seat. Seeing this, Xiao Ziqing quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Bodyguard Guan was always paying attention to the movements behind him. If Ming made any strange movements, he would immediately be able to stop him. However, after more than 10 minutes had passed and the car was on the highway, Ming didn't move again. Both Xiao Ziqing and bodyguard Guan relaxed a little and calmed down a little. However, Ming suddenly opened his eyes, stood up, and threw himself at the driver's seat. Old Shen had been with Xiao Ziqing for more than 10 years, but this was the first time he had encountered such a situation. He was shocked and shouted, "Young master, what are you doing?" The car was on the highway. Old Chen was frightened, but he was an experienced driver after all. He quickly drove the car to the side of the railing and stepped on the emergency brake. Luckily, there weren't many cars on the highway. The car behind the Bentley immediately braked, but it still kissed the rear of the Bentley. Bang! The car shook and Xiao Ziqing felt dizzy from the impact. However, at the same time, a cold wind blew from the left. Obviously, the car door had been opened. "Lil, oh, come back!" Xiao Ziqing yelled when she opened her eyes with difficulty. However, what responded to her was a loud breaking sound and a dull thud. Xiao Ziqing seemed to see a figure suddenly collapse. At the same time, Old Chen's driver cried out, "Young master!" Chapter 11:10. Yu Lily searched for a long time, but she didn't see O Ming. After going around in circles, she returned to the original place. It was a sunny day, and the sun was shining brightly. There were fewer and fewer people outside. Yu Lily took off her coat and stood there so that O Ming could find her. After thinking about it, she picked up her phone to try her luck. She dialed O Ming's number, but his phone was turned off. Yu Lily stood there for more than an hour. But, she didn't see O Ming. Could it be that he was secretly hiding? That shouldn't be the case. She looked at the time. It was already past 3 in the afternoon. Usually, at home, people should be eating together at this time, right? Or, they had already finished eating, gathered together to play cards, chat, or go for a drive around. How nice. But, where is O Ming? Could it be that he had already sneaked back home? That shouldn't be the case. He wouldn't suddenly disappear. Especially on the first day of the Lunar New Year, such a special day. Did he hide to give me a surprise? Thinking of that, Yu Lily's tense mood quietly relaxed. The security guard of the scenic spot watched Yu Lily stand there for a long time. Finally, he couldn't help but come forward and ask, "Miss, are you waiting for someone?" Yu Lily smiled and nodded her head. "Yes, I'm waiting for my boyfriend." "You're late for so long. I saw you standing here alone for almost 2 hours. Why aren't you here yet?" "No, he just came with me. There were so many people just now, so he must have run away. I'm waiting for him to come back and find me." When the security guard heard that, he clicked his tongue and said, "What a nice girl. Give him a call." How can you let a girl wait outside for him to feel the cold wind during the Lunar New Year? It's okay, big brother. You can go back. I think he'll find me in a while. Yu Lily smiled gratefully. Sure. If your feet are tired from standing, you can come to our security booth and sit for a while. You look about the same age as my daughter. You're quite pitiful. Yu Lily chuckled and said, "It's okay. Go ahead." "All right." The security guard waved his hand and walked back. Yu Lily stood in the same place for nearly an hour, but she still didn't see him. Could it be that he thought that after coming here to look for her and failing to find her, he went back to wait at her doorstep? The more she thought about it, the more likely it seemed. After putting on his coat, he walked to the side of the security booth and said to the security guard, "Big brother, if a man about this tall, wearing a black trench coat and a dark suit inside comes looking for me, can you help me tell him that I went home to look for him?" "All right." The security guard nodded. "If I see him later, I'll send him home. Do you have his photo?" She quickly took out her cell phone and found O Ming's photo. She said, "This." When the security guard saw O Ming's face, his eyes lit up, and he said, "This young man is quite handsome. He looks like a star." When she heard someone praise her man, Yu Lily chuckled and said, "I'll have to trouble you then. I'll head back first." "All right." This place was a little far from where she lived. If Ming was really waiting at her doorstep, it would be bad. Yu Lily quickly went out and hailed a taxi. When she got out of the elevator, she was disappointed. Chapter 11:11. No. Ming was not here. But, where could he have gone? Opening the door, Yu Lily collapsed on the sofa, exhausted. No one expected such a thing to happen on the first day of the new year. Ming was knocked down by a speeding Toyota. His head was bleeding profusely, and even his arm was fractured. The situation was not optimistic. By the time the ambulance arrived, more than 10 minutes had passed. Ming's consciousness was a little fuzzy. When he was carried on the stretcher, he heard Xiao Ziqing crying, apologizing, and repentance. However, in his mind, he remembered the joke he had said to Yu Lily not long ago: "If I broke my arms and legs, what would you do?" Yu Lily was really tired that day. She collapsed on the sofa and fell asleep without knowing it. When she woke up, it was already dark outside. Looking at the time, it was already past 5 in the evening. At this time, Yu Lily's body was a little stiff. She quickly got up and opened the visitor log to check. Could it be that, after Ming rang the doorbell and found no one answered, he left? However, after checking all the records for the day, Yu Lily found nothing. Ming did not come. Yu Lily was very disappointed. She turned to the sofa and picked up her phone, only to find that it was turned off. Returning to the room, she charged the phone and turned it on. She put it aside and went to the bathroom. When she came out, she found that the phone screen was still on. Picking it up, she saw a lot of missed calls and messages. Seeing these things, Yu Lily was happy. It must be Ming. Damn it, why did he only think of calling and texting me now? She had waited at the entrance of Yuelao Lake for 3 hours. Don't expect me to forgive you so easily. Yu Lily unlocked the phone, only to find that the missed calls and messages were all from Su Qianxi. 7 missed calls and 2 text messages. Feeling disappointed, Yu Lily was not in a hurry to call back. Instead, she opened the messages. However, as soon as she saw the words, her head seemed to be hit by something. Caught off guard, her head buzzed and went blank. Qianqian, I heard that Ming had a car accident. Are you okay? Qianqian, you are not in the hospital. Where did you go? Ming is in the operating room. Come quickly. Rehabilitation hospital. Seeing the message, Yu Lily's hands suddenly trembled, and there was only one thought left in her mind: Ming had a car accident. Ming had a car accident. But why would there be a car accident? However, if he didn't get into a car accident, how could he disappear without a sound? Yu Lily didn't even think to put on her coat. Holding the phone, she rushed out of the door and pressed the elevator button desperately. When she looked down, she found that her hands were slightly trembling. He dialed Su Qianxi's number. The ringtone sounded as long as a century. Unknowingly, Yu Lily felt her eyes burning and her heart racing uncontrollably. Ding! When the elevator arrived, Yu Lily strode in. At the same time, Su Qianxi's phone was connected. Chapter 11:12. Su Qianxi could hear the panic in Yu Lily's voice and said, Lily, don't be afraid. Where are you now? How is he? Where is he? He's in the hospital. He just came out of the emergency room. His hand is broken, Anne. Su Qianxi opened her mouth, but she couldn't bear to say it. She said, you should come and see for yourself. He was looking for you. He was looking for you. When Yu Lily heard that, she burst into tears and cried out, is he okay? He's fine at the moment, but what? Yu Lily panicked, but after confirming that he was fine, she let out a sigh of relief and said, tell him that I'm coming. I'll be there soon. Wait for me. Come quickly. I'm at the hospital with my husband, but he's been looking for you, all right. She hung up the phone. The elevator reached the first floor. Yu Lily wasn't wearing a coat. She was only wearing a thin knitted shirt. When the evening wind blew, she shivered. But she had no time to care. By the time she got a taxi to the rehabilitation hospital, more than 20 minutes had passed. After paying the fare, Yu Lily switched off her phone the moment she got out of the car. She ran into the hospital and asked for Oh Ming's ward before heading straight for the 6th floor. The hospital elevator was busy, so Yu Lily ran up the stairs. Yu Lily was panting heavily. Before she could steady herself, she ran in the direction of Oh Ming's ward. Outside the ward, there were quite a number of people. There were medical staff, Oh Ming's family, Li Xicheng, and Luo Zhan. Yu Lily looked at them and panted heavily. She calmed herself down and walked over slowly. Xiao Zicheng's eyes were red and swollen. She looked miserable from crying. She was standing shoulder to shoulder with a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man looked similar to Oh Ming, so he was probably Oh Ming's father. Wen Fenglin was also standing there with Oh Ming's father. Yu Lily's appearance attracted a lot of attention. When Xiao Zicheng saw her, she was angry. She flung Oh Ming's father's hand away and strode over to Yu Lily. Yu Lily looked at Xiao Zicheng and called out, "Auntie, Oh Ming." However, before he could finish his sentence, his face was slapped hard. Xiao Zicheng's slap was very, very heavy. It was so heavy that Yu Lily felt as if she had been slapped directly in the heart, and the pain was burning. His face, which had turned red from the cold, was so numb that it felt like it was going to break under this slap. "How dare you show up? It's all because of you that my son ended up like this. If it weren't for seeing you, Oh Ming wouldn't have grabbed the steering wheel and jumped out of the car." Jump out of the car, those two words were like a heavy hammer, hitting Yu Lily in the heart. At this moment, the pain was hysterical. In order to see her, Oh Ming jumped out of the car. Yu Lily could clearly feel that her cheeks were slightly swollen. Her face was painful and numb. Xiao Zicheng's words had completely erased the last bit of confidence he had in his heart. She didn't dare to look up at Xiao Zicheng. She lowered her head and asked, "Auntie, how is Oh Ming?" Xiao Zicheng burst into tears. "It's all your fault, you evil spirit. You've really harmed my son." As she spoke, she had already collapsed on the man beside her and burst into tears. Chapter 11-13. What right do you have to see him? Xiao Zicheng roared hysterically. She pushed Yu Lily with both hands and shouted, "Don't you think you haven't hurt him enough? What right do you have to see him? What right do you have to see him?" Xiao Zicheng's words, accompanied by her shove, were extremely hurtful. "Yes, what right do I have? What right do I have to see him? But, at this time, Oh Ming should need me." Although Yu Lily didn't know what Oh Ming looked like at the moment, and she didn't know where he was hurt or where he was uncomfortable, he was looking for her, wasn't he? Yu Lily took a step back and looked up at Xiao Zicheng. She said firmly, "I am his girlfriend." "Bah!" Xiao Zicheng was furious and roared, "Who do you think you are? You want to be my son's girlfriend? I've seen many women like you. Now, Oh Ming has just been in trouble, and you're here to put on an act. After confirming that Oh Ming is seriously injured, you'll leave, right?" Her words were extremely hurtful. In one sentence, she had already determined that Yu Lily was a vain woman. Yu Lily was about to speak when she saw Xiao Zicheng's pleading expression. She said, "I beg you, don't pester my son anymore, okay? Just take it as you've done good deeds. He can't take any more blows now." How much Oh Ming cared about women could be seen from the moment he jumped out of the car. But, if such a woman knew Oh Ming's current situation, she would definitely turn around and leave without hesitation. Such a situation, such a blow, was definitely not something Oh Ming could take. What if Oh Ming couldn't take it anymore? Absolutely not. You know what? You can go. I'll pretend you were never here. Auntie, you may have some misunderstandings about Lily, but Lily is not the kind of person you think she is. Su Qianxi, who had been silent all this time, walked to Yu Lily's side and took off her coat as she spoke to Xiao Ziqing. Yu Lily had left the house in a hurry and hadn't even put on a coat. In such weather, she looked thin and weak. In the cold winter, she was shivering slightly. Su Qianxi covered Yu Lily with her light blue coat and continued, Lily and I are also good friends. She has been with Ming for many years. Enough. Xiao Ziqing interrupted Su Qianxi and shouted, I will not let her in. Don't even think about it. Even if he didn't let her see, it would still be good for her to know about his situation. Yu Lily moved her lips, but no words came out. Wen Fenglin, who was standing a short distance behind Xiao Ziqing, glanced at Yu Lily. In a hoarse voice, he said, Xiao, I just arrived. How's Xiao doing? When Yu Lily heard that, she looked up at Wen Fenglin. On the other hand, Wen Fenglin acted as if he had asked the question in passing. He didn't even look at her. Facing her longtime friend, Xiao Ziqing's attitude was undoubtedly much better. She said, when he woke up, his emotions weren't too stable. The doctor gave him a sedative and he fell asleep. Come in, let's watch over him together. When Wen Fenglin heard that, he nodded his head. Go on in. I'm going to smoke a cigarette. Xiao Ziqing and her husband looked at each other and walked into the ward together. Chapter 11:14. Yu Lily's voice was filled with heartfelt gratitude. Wen Fenglin's small eyes beneath his black-rimmed glasses gazed at her. He said earnestly, young people should be more rational. Ming's condition isn't too good. Xiao is a little paranoid. It's hard for others to change her mind once she's set her mind on something. I don't know what happened between you two, but Xiao is a mother. She's only doing this for the good of her son. I hope you can understand. This is just a mother's desire to protect her son. She's not targeting you. Yu Lily was amused to hear that he was clearly trying to clear Xiao Ziqing's name. She looked up at Wen Fenglin's single-lidded eyes and nodded her head. Thank you. A smile appeared on Wen Fenglin's face. Two deep dimples appeared on both sides of his cheeks. They made him look much gentler. You're welcome. Go back and rest. They'll be leaving soon. I'll call you over when they're gone. Looking at the man in front of her, who was about the same age as Ming's mother, Yu Lily felt a lump in her throat. Her eyes burned. She wanted to laugh, but the muscles on her face refused to listen. If Yu Lily had only felt touched earlier, she was now filled with an indescribable sense of gratitude. Yu Lily's lips turned down uncontrollably. She lowered her head and covered her face. She choked up and said, Thank you. Thank you. Xiao Ziqing would definitely be guarded against Li Xicheng and Su Qianxi, but she wouldn't be guarded against Wen Fenglin. Under the circumstances, as Xiao Ziqing's friend, Wen Fenglin was undoubtedly the most qualified person to say such a thing. As long as he was willing to help her, she should be able to see Ming. But, why would Wen Fenglin help her? The smile on Wen Fenglin's face deepened. He looked at Yu Lily with loving eyes. You're a good child. Give me your phone. Yu Lily quickly reached for her phone. It was only then that she realized it was out of battery. Looking at the dead phone, she said sheepishly, It's out of battery, take this for now. Wen Fenglin took out a small black cell phone from his pocket and handed it to Yu Lily. It looked brand new. I'll contact you later. She looked up at Wen Fenglin in shock. Wen Fenglin put his finger to his lips and said, Shoo. It's time to smoke. As he spoke, he shoved the phone into Yu Lily's hand and turned to enter Ming's ward. Both Li Xicheng and Su Qianxi took in Wen Fenglin's words and actions. Su Qianxi looked at Yu Lily and said softly, Let's find a place to hide first. We'll come back when this uncle contacts us. Yu Lily pulled herself together and nodded. He put his coat on Su Qianxi, followed the two women, and found a lounge to sit down. About 10 minutes later, their phones kept ringing. They were all from their parents and children, asking them to come home. Today was the first day of the Lunar New Year. The Li family must be happy and harmonious. But they were accompanying her in the hospital. Chapter 11:15. Su Qianxi felt a little awkward and glanced at Li Xicheng. Li Xicheng didn't say anything, so Yu Lily continued, "It's the new year. Your family must have a lot of things to do. Even if you don't need to worry about a lot of things, the three children still need you to take them out to play. How can their parents not be around?" Su Qianxi was already wavering, and after hearing Yu Lily's words, she became even more uncertain. She glanced at Li Xicheng, then turned back to Yu Lily and said, "Then, we'll go first. You didn't even put on your jacket, so you don't have any cash on you, right?" As she spoke, she took out her wallet from her bag and pulled out a few notes. Yu Lily quickly tried to push it back, but Su Qianxi immediately said, "Take it to protect yourself first. You can return it to me tomorrow, or you can send it to me on WeChat after your phone is charged. It's okay. Remember to eat and drink." Hearing Su Qianxi's instructions, Yu Lily nodded. She looked down and saw the light blue coat she was wearing. She reached out to take it off and return it to Su Qianxi, but Su Qianxi stopped her and said, "You keep the coat. I'm not cold." As she spoke, she stood up and took Li Xicheng's hand. "We'll go first. Call us if anything happens." Li Xicheng nodded. "Okay." Yu Lily's heart warmed as she looked at Su Qianxi gratefully. Su Qianxi finally relaxed and pulled Li Xicheng out. As soon as they were out, Li Xicheng held Su Qianxi's hand in his and asked, "Are you cold?" "Nope." Su Qianxi was wrapped in Li Xicheng's coat. She looked at Li Xicheng, who was only wearing a thin sweater, and chuckled. "Are you cold?" "Of course." Li Xicheng opened his arms to her. "Come warm me." Su Qianxi chuckled and pulled the sides of the coat to hug him. She looked up and asked, "Are you warm?" "Yeah, I'm warm." Li Xicheng tapped her nose. "Let's go home for the new year. If anything happens to O Ming, will his mother inform you?" "She will." Yu Lily was sitting in the lounge. There were young mothers with their children, or elderly people with their spouses coming and going. He sat there until 9 o'clock in the evening. Yu Lily's whole body was sore from sitting. She stood up and stretched, and the cell phone in her hand rang. It was Wen Fenglin's phone. Without a doubt, the call had to be from him. Yu Lily quickly answered the call and shouted, "Mr. Wen, how is it?" Wen Fenglin's unique voice came from the other side. It sounded a little hoarse, but it wasn't unpleasant. He said, "Come over. O Ming's condition isn't too stable. He's looking for you." Hearing that, Yu Lily almost burst into tears. The first thing she did was grab her phone and rush out of the door, running in the direction of O Ming's ward. However, before he could get close to the ward, he heard O Ming shouting. His voice sounded like he was on the verge of collapse. At the same time, there was a deep sense of despair, as if he had experienced unimaginable pain. He roared hysterically, "Scram! Get lost!" Chapter 11:16. His voice was filled with remorse, guilt, and pain. The sobs and sadness that he tried his best to hide in his voice fell into the ears of others, making them feel even worse. Despair. Deep and intense despair. When Yu Lily heard O Ming's voice, she stopped at the door. The door was half open. From her angle, she could see O Ming's bed. On the bed, O Ming sat with his legs bent. His face was buried between his thighs. His head was wrapped in gauze. From Yu Lily's angle, she could only see his ears. As for his left hand, it was wrapped in a plaster cast. Oh Ming's parents stood by the bed. Xiao Ziqing was lying on her husband's shoulder. Her shoulders shook violently, but she didn't make a sound. If you find her, help me tell her that I'll be spending the new year at home. After the new year, I'll be going on a business trip. When I'm back, I'll look for her. His voice was no longer as hysterical as before. Instead, it was filled with pleading and a sense of sorrow and despair. As soon as he said that, Oh Ming raised his head. His pale face was also wrapped in gauze. It didn't look too good. But, what moved Yu Lily the most was his eyes. They were the eyes that had completely conquered her and made her fall in love with him. His bright, almond-shaped eyes that were as beautiful as the night sky were revealed when he raised his head. However, such a pair of eyes had no focus, empty and lifeless. It was as if they were the eyes of a wax figure. At the same time when she saw his eyes, the soft place in her heart, which was already on the verge of collapse, broke with a bang and became a pile of debris, stinging her eyes. Yu Lily's tears flowed uncontrollably. She covered her mouth to prevent herself from making a sound. When Feng Lin looked toward the door. When he saw Yu Lily, he shook his head slightly at her. Yu Lily understood what he meant. He was telling her not to go over. Mom, help me tell her, Oh Ming said. Don't let her know about my current situation. Don't let her know that something happened to me. You absolutely can't tell her. His voice was choked with sobs, and his empty eyes were filled with tears. In the midst of such despair, there was a lonely, proud, and fragile soul. Was he afraid of letting her know because his pride couldn't take it? Did he think it was embarrassing, so he didn't want her to know and wanted to maintain his last bit of dignity? How could such a proud and flamboyant Oh Ming not forget to maintain his image in such a situation? That was so stupid. Xiao Ziqing calmed herself down and said in a choked voice, I won't tell her. I'll send someone to look for her immediately and tell her what you've said, okay? Have a good rest and sleep for a while. Maybe you'll recover in a while. It won't take long. My son is blessed by the heavens. Everything will pass. Oh Ming didn't say anything. Xiao Ziqing helped him onto the bed. After a long time, he said, Mom, lend me your phone. I'll call her. If you tell her, she won't believe you. I'll tell her. She turned to look at. And she to, and. Chapter 11:17. Yu Lily's voice was slightly breathless and nasal. She tried to calm her breathing and listened to the other side of the phone. Yu Lily. It was Oh Ming's voice. When Yu Lily heard that name, she felt a lump in her throat and said, Oh Ming, where are you? The other side was silent for a moment before saying, I'm at home. Isn't it the new year? I forgot to tell you when I left. Are you home yet? Yes. Have you eaten? Yes. Yu Lily wanted to cry, but she bit her lower lip to stop herself from crying. She sniffled. What did you eat? I ate Western food, steak. While speaking, his voice had a strong nasal tone. Oh Ming calmed down and asked, Did you catch a cold? Yes, I got some air today and took some medicine. I think I'll be fine tomorrow. Take care of yourself. I might not look for you in the near future. I just remembered that I have something important to do at the company. After the new year, I have to go back for a business trip. Yu Lily had already prepared an excuse. She had already predicted what he would say next. But every word that came out of his mouth seemed to be stabbing into her heart. Every word was so heavy that it hurt dully. When will you be back? I don't know. I'll contact you when I'm back. Okay. Whose phone is this? My mom's. Don't call this number if there's nothing important. Be careful or my mom will scold you. Okay. I'm hanging up. Okay. Sleep early. Okay. Good night. Okay, Lily replied. Her heart felt like it was being pried open by someone with a shovel. It hurt so much that it felt like it was about to be torn apart. It hurt so much. After hanging up, Lily covered her mouth and slowly squatted down. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she bit her palms, not daring to make a sound. In the morning, they had discussed what would happen if something happened to each other. She stood in front of the moon lake and thought for a long time. If something really happened to him, she would not leave him. She was not as fickle and fragile as his mother had imagined. But she had never thought about what would happen to her if he couldn't see. Right now, she couldn't even enter his ward. What could she do? When Ming heard Lily's muffled voice, he knew that she was unhappy. But, he didn't dare to ask. It was his fault. He disappeared without a word. It was normal for her to be unhappy. He put the phone down and pressed it to the middle, but he accidentally pressed the speaker. From the other side of the phone came the busy tone of the phone being hung up, and it went straight into his ears. Ming's heart was slightly disappointed. In his mind, he subconsciously recalled the joke he had made with her in the morning. What about me? If I lose my limbs, what will you do? I'm with you because you're handsome. If you lose your limbs, you won't be handsome anymore. When that happens, I'll definitely leave you and not be with you anymore. Ming put down the phone and lay on the bed. He closed his eyes and felt a faint pain in his heart. Dad, take Mom back, he said. It was hard to connect such a quiet Ming with the desperate and crazy man just now. Chapter 11:18. Xiao Ziqing's emotions were indeed unstable, and Ming's father was a little worried. After some consideration, he nodded his head and said, I'll have to trouble you then. I'll bring her back first. I'll come back later. There's no need for that. Just keep her company. I'll keep Xiao company. When Fenglin stepped forward and patted Ming's father on the shoulder. Have you forgotten? I've been through it all. Ming's father nodded his head. Okay. Xiao Ziqing and her husband walked out together. The sound of their footsteps gradually faded away. Lily was hiding in the corner of the corridor. When she saw them leave, she walked out and headed for Ming's ward. In the ward, Ming listened to their footsteps leave before asking softly, Uncle Wan, are you very close to my parents? When Fenglin heard that, he laughed and replied, I grew up with your mother. When your mother was wooing your father, it was my idea. That's right. Ming had never heard of this. So, it was Xiao Ziqing who pursued his father? It wasn't easy for young people of that era to be so open-minded. However, Ming wasn't in the mood to probe further. He closed his eyes and lay on the bed. When Fenglin caught a glimpse of a shadow approaching the door. When he saw it was Lily, he smiled and waved at her. Lily closed the door of the ward and walked in with light footsteps. When Fenglin walked over to the water dispenser and bent over to pour a cup of water. He asked, why didn't you tell your girlfriend? Don't you like her very much? Don't you want her to visit you? Ming's eyes were closed. When he heard Fenglin's words, he was moved. He didn't want her. How could that be possible? He missed her. He really, really missed her. But, he couldn't. When Fenglin saw that he didn't respond, he asked again, doesn't liking someone mean that you want to be with them at all times? He handed the scalding hot water to Lily, but his eyes were still on Ming. Ming's eyes were still closed. His world was a sea of darkness. He had never imagined that a blind man's world could be so dark. It was pure darkness, without any impurities. In front of him, there was only that picturesque smile. I'm with you because you're handsome. If you lose your limbs, you won't be handsome anymore. When that happens, I'll definitely leave you and not be with you anymore. Oh Ming was silent for a moment before replying, you don't understand. Wen Fenglin glanced at Yu Lily when he heard that. Yu Lily drank more than half of the water in her hand. Looking at Oh Ming in front of her, her eyes and face were red. If she sees me like this and doesn't want me anymore, what should I do? His voice was low, and there was a hint of sorrow in his voice. It was extremely subtle and hard to detect. His voice was so low and hoarse that it could break one's heart. Hearing this, the big bell in Yu Lily's heart was hit hard by such words. Then, accompanied by a huge shock that was enough to destroy everything, it rang loudly. Yu Lily couldn't hold it in any longer. The glass in her hand fell to the ground. She took a step forward and ran toward him. She cried out, "How could I not want you?" When he heard Yu Lily's voice, Oh Ming froze on the spot. It was still pitch black in front of him, but the voice in his heart was right in front of him. It's her. Chapter 11:19. When he realized this, Oh Ming's heart skipped a beat. The despair and sorrow that had filled his heart was instantly washed away by this joy. At the same time, he felt regret, loss, and fear. She's here. She's here. However, he couldn't see it. Did she know? He couldn't see. Oh Ming wanted to raise his hand to touch her, but before he could do much, he felt waves of pain. It was so painful that his muscles spasmed, and he couldn't move at all. His hand was broken. How pathetic! Yu Lily could clearly feel the stiffness in his body, but she pretended not to notice. She sat on his bed and gently wrapped her arms around his neck, avoiding his wound. Oh Ming, on the other hand, was stiff on the bed. He could smell her scent clearly. He greedily buried his face in her hair and hugged her with his other uninjured arm. His voice trembled as he called out, "Yu Lily. It's me. It's me. I'm here." Yu Lily's voice was choked up. She couldn't hold back her tears any longer. "Do you know how long I've been looking for you? Do you know how long I've been waiting for you? It wasn't easy for you to call me, but you lied to me like this." Oh Ming had already expected that, based on Yu Lily's personality, she would definitely look for him. His heart was filled with guilt. Oh Ming was silent for a moment. He greedily inhaled her scent, and his eyes couldn't help but feel hot. He lowered his voice and asked, "When did you come?" He had thought that it would be a long, long time before they could meet again. He had thought that he would have to go abroad for a period of time before he could come back and reunite with her. He hadn't expected that she would come. She had come at the right time. What a coincidence, she came a long time ago, Wen Fenglin said. He looked at the young couple in front of him with a look of relief in his eyes. In a slightly hoarse voice, he said, "It's just that your mother refused to let her in to see you." He had expected it. Oh Ming knew his mother all too well. As Wen Fenglin spoke, he looked at Yu Lily and asked, "Miss Yu, Xiao can't see now, and his arm is broken. Don't you despise him?" Yu Lily gently released Oh Ming and turned to look at Wen Fenglin. Her eyes were slightly red and swollen with tears. Yu Lily rubbed her eyes and asked, "Mr. Wen, if your beloved wife couldn't see anymore, and her hand was broken, would you despise her?" Wen Jiabao asked. Wen Fenglin had thought that Yu Lily would say something along the lines of, "No, of course not," or something along those lines. He hadn't expected that. Wen Fenglin was slightly surprised, but he quickly smiled and said, "I don't." Yu Lily was stunned. She suddenly recalled the rumors about Wen Fenglin. The outside world seemed to say that. In that case, the reason Wen Fenglin treated her so well was because, Yu Lily suddenly felt a sense of danger and looked at Wen Fenglin suspiciously. Wen Fenglin could sense Yu Lily's wariness. He laughed heartily and said, "What are you thinking about?" I may not have a wife, but I did have a lover. But miss you, Lil, oh isn't your husband now, so are you playing word games with me? Xiao time, you xiao you. You. You, time, and time. You. Chapter 11:20. Oh Ming's words reverberated in the ward. As he spoke, he held Yu Lily's shoulder with his uninjured hand and squeezed it tightly. His voice was as heavy as sandpaper, low and hesitant, as if it took him a lot of courage to ask this question. At that moment, it wasn't just Yu Lily. Even Wen Fenglin could sense Oh Ming's nervousness. Wen Fenglin's eyes darkened when he saw it. Seeing Oh Ming like that, he suddenly felt a little sad. The difference in their love was too great. That was why they were so anxious. Oh Ming didn't feel that secure toward Yu Lily, did he? That was why he had instructed Xiao Ziqing not to tell her. On the one hand, it was because Oh Ming didn't want her to worry. On the other hand, it was because Oh Ming was really worried that she wouldn't want him anymore. Wen Fenglin looked at the young couple in front of him. They were old enough to be his sons and daughters. His heart was filled with complicated emotions. Wasn't it the same for him and them back then? Because of the difference, it was destined to be a tragedy. When Yu Lily heard Oh Ming's question, she turned her head to look at him. Oh Ming's eyes were empty and lifeless. The deep and bright peach blossom eyes of the past were gone. They might never be seen again. Yu Lily felt a lump in her throat. Her eyes were wet. She gently placed her hand on his and said, Oh Ming, if you hadn't forced me not to die, I would have died many times over. During that time, Yu Lily had been so depressed that she had no desire to live. It was Oh Ming who had pulled her back from the jaws of death. Wen Fenglin didn't know what had happened. When he heard that, he gave Yu Lily a sidelong glance. Looking at Yu Lily's profile, he felt a sense of déjà vu. Yu Lily patted his shoulder comfortingly and said, You saved the wife. You can't not marry her. Do you understand? She had said that he couldn't not marry her, not that he couldn't not marry her. It was a difference of one word. The meaning was the same, but the meaning was vastly different. No matter what, I'm sticking to you. It doesn't matter whether your mother agrees or not. If you want to marry me, then marry me. If you don't, I'll just die again. It's no big deal. Yu Lily's voice was choked with emotion. When she reached the end of her sentence, she started laughing. Yu Lily smiled, but Oh Ming felt a lump in his throat. An unknown emotion sprang up. It was so unfamiliar that it made him feel at a loss. He held her in his arms with one hand. He didn't say a word, but hot tears rolled down his cheeks and fell on her neck. Yu Lily's heart ached. She gently patted his body and asked, Will you marry me? Marry. Oh Ming kissed her cheek gently and said, It wasn't easy to catch a blind one. I can't let you get away. Get lost. Yu Lily scolded him with a smile, but her heart was warm. Fortunately, even though he couldn't see, he was still Oh Ming. Fortunately, although he couldn't see, he didn't give up. That was enough. Yu Lily gently leaned on his shoulder. Her voice was gentle and firm. In the days to come, I'll be your eyes. Okay. Oh Ming gently pushed her away. Whose clothes are these? Yu Lily looked down and said, They belong to Qianqian. I didn't wear a jacket just now. She lent it to me. It doesn't smell as good as yours. Change it. Li Sicheng, say that again. Chapter 11:21. Yu Lily instinctively sniffed Su Qianxi's clothes. It smelled nice. When she saw the serious expression on Oh Ming's face, she took it off. Wen Fenglin looked at them and sighed softly. He said, Looking at all of you reminds me of my youth. More than 20 years ago, I was a poor artist who was filled with nothing but vengeance and dreams. If I'd had your determination back then, I wouldn't have ended up in this state. Wen Fenglin laughed. Little girl, based on the current situation, Xiao Qiao won't accept you. Why don't we use another method? Method? Yu Lily looked at Wen Fenglin in surprise. When Ming heard that, he turned his head slightly and asked, what method? A way to make Xiao Qiao beg you to be with Ming, Yu Lily said. Ever since the incident with Shen Luo and Shen Manting, Yi Yuyu hadn't returned to the Shen family. From then on, Yi Yuyu's name had never been mentioned in the family. No one had ever mentioned Yi Yuyu. In the dining room, old Mrs. Shen sat at the head of the table. Shen Longyue, Mrs. Shen, Shen Luo and Shen Manting, and Shen Jilie were seated. There was no one else. Typically, the first day of the Lunar New Year should be bustling with excitement and joy. However, on the first day of the Lunar New Year this year, the atmosphere was indescribably strange. Old Mrs. Shen didn't look too good. No one else dared to pick up their chopsticks. Shen Longyue cleared his throat and said, "Mom, it's time to eat." "I don't want to eat," old Mrs. Shen blurted out like a child. "I don't want to eat. I want to see that girl." "Which girl?" Shen Longyue asked. "Shen Yingyue." When these three words came out, everyone at the table became even more silent. Shen Longyue felt helpless and said, "Mom, that child died a long time ago. Have you forgotten? Who said she's dead? She's not dead." Old Mrs. Shen was a little angry. She stood up and said, "I'm going to Kingstown. I'm going to Kingstown to see her. Her name isn't Shen Yingyue anymore. It's Yu Lily. I'm going to find her and change her name." "Mom." Shen Longyue had a headache. 2 years ago, you also mistook the 13-year-old granddaughter next door as Shen Yingyue. 5 years ago, you also mistook Miss Gao from the next alley as Shen Yingyue. This time, who is Yu Lily? It's the woman who saved Grandma last time. She's the girl who kept pestering Grandma when she refused to return to the capital. Ahem, she's also Ming's girlfriend. Hearing that, Shen Longyue frowned. He looked at the old lady and said, "Okay, Mom, you eat first. We'll go after the new year, okay?" "No, I have to ask her to come back for the new year. She has been spending the new year alone for so many years. How can she spend it outside this year? We have to get her back. Grandma, I know where she is. Be a good girl and eat first. I'll ask her to come to the capital to see you later, okay?" Shen Jilie walked over and helped the old lady up. "She almost became my girlfriend. I can get her back. Good job, young man. You're so fast. It would be great if that girl could become our daughter-in-law." Old Mrs. Shen clapped her hands in approval. "Hurry up and call her." Shen Jilie was speechless. Chapter 1122. Originally, Shen Jilie thought that there might be some truth to what his grandmother said. After all, the old lady's words were sometimes accurate, even if it was less than half true. But, what if? He didn't expect the old lady to give herself away just by testing her. Shen Yingyue was the name that Shen Longyue had prepared for his soon-to-be-born daughter. When the child was still in her mother's belly, everyone in the family called her Yingyue. No one expected that the woman who was about to give birth would suddenly suffer from prenatal depression and become a little crazy. In the old lady's words, Shen Yingyue's mother had committed too many sins and was followed by some unclean things. That was why she became like that. Later, when the due date was almost reached, she ran out and disappeared without a trace. If Yu Lily was really Shen Yingyue, wouldn't she be his half-brother? But Yu Lily was only 25 years old, a year younger than him. How could she be Shen Yingyue? If Shen Yingyue was still alive, she would be the same age as Shen Manting. Shen Luo was 2 years old, and Shen Jilie was 2 years old. Shen Jilie was disappointed and coaxed, "Then, Grandma, eat first. I'll call her after eating. Really? Really? Old Mrs. Shen finally nodded with satisfaction and said, okay, then I'll eat first. You keep your promise. Okay, okay, okay. Shenjilia pushed her back and gave Shen Longyue a look. Shen Longyue immediately understood and put food in the old lady's bowl. After the meal, the old lady was in a good mood. When she was full, she urged Shenjilia to make the phone call. So, Shenjilia started delaying. He couldn't stand being urged, so he went out with his friends. Who knew that he could avoid the first day, but he couldn't avoid the second. Before dawn, Shenjilia's old lady burst into his room. She shouted, "Wake up! Call the girl." -6:30 in the morning. Yu Lily was sleeping soundly when her phone rang. It was Shenjilia. Looking at the caller, Yu Lily turned the phone on silent and threw it under the bed. Then she continued to sleep. When she woke up again, it was already dawn. She picked up the phone from the floor and looked at it. It was already 9 o'clock in the morning. 9 o'clock. Yu Lily immediately woke up and turned on the phone. Sure enough, there were a bunch of missed calls. However, all of them belonged to the capital. None of them belonged to Kingstown. Yu Lily was disappointed. At the same time, another strange call came in. The caller was from the capital. Yu Lily picked up the phone, and a wail could be heard from the other end. "Oh my God, you finally picked up the phone. What's up?" However, what responded to her was the voice of an old lady. She sounded a little excited as she shouted, "Little girl, have you been well? Remember me?" Shenjilia's phone rang with the elderly man's voice. She didn't have to think to know who it was. Yu Lily nodded and asked, "Old madam, what's the matter? Why don't you call me grandma?" Yu Lily was speechless. Because if she called her grandmother, she would climb up the pole and pester her until she couldn't get away. Having experienced it once, Yu Lily did not dare to experience it a second time. He coughed lightly and said, "Are you looking for me?" Chapter 11:23. The old lady's voice was filled with excitement. Although her voice sounded old, her tone and temperament were like that of a child's. Yu Lily had a good impression of the old lady, but she didn't dare to get close to her. She rejected her and said, "It's okay, old madam. I still have things to do in Kingstown." "I see." The old lady sounded a little disappointed. "How about I go to Kingstown to find you? I'll just come and see you, okay?" Yu Lily didn't know what to do with the old lady and said, "See me? How about a video call?" "Okay. Okay." The old lady was excited and shouted, "Jilia, video call. Video call." Shenjilia felt a little helpless and asked Yu Lily, "Is it convenient now?" It's not convenient. I haven't washed my face yet." "Wait a moment." She hung up the phone. When the old lady saw that the phone had been hung up, she was furious and shouted, "How could this be? Did the young lady hang up the phone? How could this be? You have to compensate my young lady." As she spoke, she reached out and slapped Shenjilia twice. "You have to compensate my young lady." Shenjilia took the 2 slaps. His neck shrank back and he shouted, "Grandma, Grandma, it hurts." She went to wash her face. "When she's done, she'll have a video call with you. Don't be afraid. She won't run away." When old Mrs. Shen heard that, she glared at him and slapped him again. "Speak properly." Shenjilia covered the place where she had slapped him and wanted to cry. Kingstown. Xiao Ziqing came early in the morning and heard the nurse say that Ming refused to eat or take an injection. This caused Xiao Ziqing to be extremely anxious. As soon as she entered, she saw Ming wrapped in a blanket and curled up on the bed. His back was to the door, and he looked very sad. Xiao Ziqing's heart ached. She walked up and shouted, "Son, you haven't eaten anything since yesterday. Come and eat something with mommy." "I haven't eaten either. I don't want to eat. I don't have an appetite, Mom." Oh Ming's voice was very low. He sounded listless and weak. Xiao Ziqing's heart ached. She went forward and sat on the edge of his bed. "It's okay. Don't worry about it too much. When your injuries are more or less healed, I'll take you out to play, okay?" When Oh Ming heard this, his arms, which were curled up in the quilt, slightly tightened. He didn't feel good. When he was young, whenever Oh Ming threw a tantrum, Xiao Ziqing would use this trick to coax him. Right now, Xiao Ziqing was still treating him like a child. However, Oh Ming did not give any response. He closed his eyes and did not speak. "Oh Ming, get up and eat something. Don't starve. Your health is more important. Don't let your mother worry." Oh Ming's father placed the food he had bought on Oh Ming's table and reached out to grab him. However, Oh Ming remained indifferent. He closed his eyes and muttered, "I don't have an appetite. Go home. It's the new year. Don't be unhappy because of me." When Xiao Ziqing heard this, she burst into tears and shouted, "You silly child, you're already like this. How are we supposed to be happy? How are we supposed to celebrate the new year? Now, no one could celebrate the new year in peace. Alright, don't cry. The child is in a bad mood, and you're bullying me?" Oh Ming's father wiped Xiao Ziqing's eyes and said, "Let the child be quiet for a while. When the child thinks things through and is in a better mood, he will naturally get up and eat." Chapter 11:24. Oh Ming's father's words convinced Xiao Ziqing. But after a few hours, Oh Ming was still lying in bed, motionless. She looked at the time. It was already past 11. Xiao Ziqing knew that Oh Ming hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. He was relying on the 4-drip. How could this go on? Xiao Ziqing walked to Oh Ming's bedside and gently pushed him. She shouted, "Xiao O, get up and eat." But Oh Ming was still lying in bed, motionless. Just as the 4-drip was finished, the nurse came to help Oh Ming remove the needle. But Oh Ming didn't move. Xiao Ziqing's heart ached. She sat beside her son and covered her mouth, not daring to cry out loud. Her shoulders trembled slightly, but she couldn't hide her heavy breathing. Oh Ming seemed to raise his head and open his eyes. However, there was still nothing in those eyes. There was no light, only emptiness. When Xiao Ziqing saw Oh Ming's eyes, she quickly stood up. She bit her fist and pinched her hand hard, afraid that she would cry out loud. Although Oh Ming's eyes couldn't hear, his hearing was miraculously very good. Hearing this suppressed sob, Oh Ming closed his eyes and said, "When can I be discharged?" When Xiao Ziqing heard Oh Ming finally speak, she opened her mouth to speak, but when she removed her hand, she sobbed heavily. At the same time, she wanted to speak, but she couldn't. "When you're better, you can be discharged." Oh Huijin walked in with a new meal in his hand. He said, "Now, the most important thing is for you to get better. No matter what, you have to eat hard. Even if you don't have an appetite, you have to eat a little." When Xiao Ziqing saw her husband, she grabbed his hand and tried to suppress her sobs. She cried like a child. Oh Huijin patted her hand gently. He looked at Oh Ming and said, "I know you don't like hospitals, but you can't be discharged yet. There's a high chance that your eyes will recover. Who knows, if you keep acting like this, they might not recover at all." When Oh Ming heard this, he was still indifferent. Oh Huijin said earnestly, "Xiao O, you're already 31 years old. After the new year, you'll be 32. You should be more sensible. You're already an adult. Don't make your parents worry." "Got it," Oh Ming said without looking up or opening his eyes. "You can go back. Don't worry about me." I'll eat when I'm hungry. No, eat it now. Xiao, eat it now. Mommy is begging you, eat something, okay? Xiao Ziqing opened the box and said, this is Auntie Gui's cooking. Don't you like Auntie Gui's cooking? Here, try some. As he spoke, he handed the bowl to O Ming. Annoyed, O Ming rolled over in his blanket and said, you guys are so annoying. I don't want to eat. Xiao Ziqing's hand froze in midair. Her son actually thought that she was annoying. Xiao Ziqing felt a stab of pain in her heart. This was the scene when Fenglin saw when he arrived. He sighed inwardly and shouted, Xiao Qiao, the child doesn't want to eat. Let him starve. When O Huijin heard this, he looked at Wen Fenglin unhappily and said, Old one, he's not your son. You can do whatever you want, right? Chapter 11:25. Wen Fenglin's voice was filled with helplessness as he replied, I didn't force him to jump out of the car, and I didn't break his bones or blind him. Anyway, the child is already in such a state. The situation can't get any worse, can it? Upon hearing this sarcastic remark, O Huijin felt like killing him. His face darkened immediately as he asked, what do you mean by that? When Fenglin walked in and said, didn't the doctor say that Xiao O's eyes are only temporarily blinded due to blood loss? He has to maintain a cheerful mood in order to recover as quickly as possible. If you keep pushing him like this, it'll be a wonder if he can recover at all. As she spoke, she walked to the side of O Ming's bed and sighed. Poor child. If this goes on, when will he recover? Xiao Ziqing and O Huijin could read between the lines in Wen Fenglin's words. Didn't this mean that the couple was hypocritical and didn't want their son to recover, so they forced him? But hearing this, Xiao Ziqing was not convinced and said, how did we force him? Isn't it for his own good? Why does it sound like you're forcing him? Xiao Ziqing's words were bold and forceful as she spoke with conviction. You guys can leave. I'm not in a bad mood. I'm just not feeling well, O Ming said. His voice sounded muffled under the blanket. Wen Fenglin's eyes were filled with sympathy as he asked, was Xian treated the same way by her family all those years ago? That's why I left so early. At the mention of this name, Xiao Ziqing retracted her gaze from O Ming. She looked over and said, Fenglin, what do you mean by this? Xian's past was different from now. We're all doing this for the sake of the child. How could Xiao Ziqing not understand what Wen Fenglin meant? She also knew that the most important factor that could make O Ming happy was that young girl. But how could he do that? What if that woman ran away as soon as she heard about O Ming's situation? At that time, wouldn't it be even more miserable? When Wen Fenglin heard that, he glanced at Xiao Ziqing from the corner of his eye and smiled. It was just that this smile contained a complicated and indescribable mockery. Xian's parents said the same thing back then. What happened in the end? In the end, Xian still died under the claws of the demon of illness. There was no turning back. The root of all this was her parents. They kept saying that they were doing this for the sake of the child, and Xian's mood worsened day by day. When Xiao Ziqing heard that, she retorted immediately. Xian's parents don't understand you at all, that's why they are against you. If they did. When she heard that, Xian's parents. Xiao Ziqing was speechless when she heard that. O Huijin looked at Wen Fenglin strangely and asked, Lao Wen, do you know that child? Wen Fenglin glanced sideways at them and slowly replied, I don't know them. But, I seem to see myself in them when I was young. How is your behavior any different from Xian's parents back then? You keep saying that it's for the good of the child, but in fact, you don't even know what the child wants. If you continue like this, I'm afraid Xian's ending will be O Ming's. Chapter 11:26. O Huijin and Xiao Ziqing knew exactly what had happened that year. Xian Er's illness had suddenly acted up, and there was no way to save her. Her young life had passed away. Even after Xian Er's death, Xian Er's family refused to let Wen Fenglin see her. However, on the third day after Xian Er's death, they brought Xian Er's photo to Wen Fenglin's house to mourn. They claimed that Wen Fenglin had caused their daughter's death. In the end, Wen Fenglin's single mother couldn't bear the pressure and committed suicide. From then on, Wen Fenglin was alone and never married again. Xian Er's entire family moved and never returned to Kingstown. Wen Fenglin's voice was agitated. His cadence was powerful and resonant. At the end of his speech, Wen Fenglin realized that he had been too emotional. After a pause, he said, "I'm sorry. I got a little emotional." Xiao Ziqing and Huijin were rendered speechless by his outburst. The atmosphere was eerily quiet. "Mom," Ming finally spoke. His voice was a little muffled. "I want to live on." It was only a few words, but it pierced Xiao Ziqing's heart. Tears flowed down her cheeks, and she couldn't hold back her sobs. She nodded her head and said, all right. I'll go get that woman. Wait for me." Forget it. Forget it. No matter what the woman's attitude was, it was fine as long as her son liked her. Even if that woman wasn't willing to be with Ming, her son shouldn't be so weak. However, if something were to happen to Ming because of them, it would be a huge loss for them. Xian Er's ending couldn't be allowed to happen to Ming. That kind of tragedy couldn't happen a second time. In the past, she had been Xian Er's good friend. Now, she was Ming's mother. Losing a good friend was painful, but losing a son was even more painful. Forget it. What if that woman wasn't what she thought she was? Xiao Ziqing sobbed. She picked up her phone and opened the call log from the day before. After Ming had called her, Xiao Ziqing had saved the number. She dialed the number, but the other end told her that the phone was switched off. Switched off at this time? Huijin walked out from behind and asked, "How is it?" "My phone is off. What should I do?" Xiao Ziqing was so anxious that she burst into tears and shouted, "Lao, did the girl yesterday already know about Ming's situation? That's why she turned off her phone now. She's afraid that we'll look for her, right?" Huijin reached out and hugged her. "Don't overthink things. It's not as terrible as you think. Do you know where she lives? I'll go take a look." "I know." Xiao Ziqing pulled up the address that her secretary had sent her and said, "It's here. Send it to me, I'll go find her." "All right." Xiao Ziqing sent the address to Huijin. Then, she watched as Huijin walked out with his car keys. The two meetings he had with that woman had both been unpleasant. What if that woman refused to come or had already run away? What should he do then? Then wouldn't Ming? Xiao Ziqing suddenly felt a bit uneasy. She pulled the corner of her husband's clothes and said, "Old I think she will ask the nurse about our son's condition. Could it be that the woman has left? That we can't find her?" Huijin said helplessly, "Don't overthink things. That child wouldn't do such a thing. Dash." Chapter 11:27. When Xiao Ziqing heard Huijin's words, she tightened her grip on his shirt and said, "I hope so." Huijin gently patted the back of her hand and comforted her. "It'll be fine. Don't worry. I'll bring her over." They could all see how much Ming cared for this girl. Perhaps if she was brought over, Ming would really be able to pull himself together. Regardless of the outcome, they had to give it a try. What if? Xiao Ziqing nodded her head. "Be careful on the road." "All right." Huijin took her hand and turned to leave. He had only taken a few steps when he heard Xiao Ziqing call out from behind, "Wait." Huijin turned his head and saw Xiao Ziqing's conflicted expression. After a moment of hesitation, she said, "Shall I go with you? Stay here and take good care of our son. What if he refuses to come after you treated him like that?" Oh Huijin's words were exactly what Xiao Ziqing was worried about. Looking at her husband's comforting gaze, Xiao Ziqing didn't insist. She nodded her head and watched Oh Huijin leave. Oh Ming had heard Wen Fenglin's name many times from his parents. But, he had never heard his parents talk about Wen Fenglin's story. Oh Ming would never have imagined that Wen Fenglin had such a story behind him. After Oh Huijin and his wife left, the room was silent. After a long time, a calm voice rang out in the ward. "Thank you." The voice was low, but it was filled with sincerity. Wen Fenglin looked at Oh Ming, who was lying on the bed, and said, "I just don't want you to end up like I did in the past. Your parents are my friends, but they're doing what I hated the most." When Xiao Ziqing heard Wen Fenglin's words from outside, she felt a little emotional. She stood at the door and didn't enter. Yu Lily had a video call with the old lady early in the morning. When her phone ran out of battery, she wailed in anguish. When she explained the situation to the old lady, she refused to hang up. After a while, she decided not to charge her phone. She put it aside and pretended to be dead. Yu Lily went back to her room and started drawing her comics. He drew like this for the whole morning. He drew intermittently until it was past 12 o'clock. Only then did he finish one square. Yu Lily hadn't eaten since she got up in the morning, so her stomach was growling. But, at that moment, she wasn't in the mood to eat. Her mind was filled with the conversation she had with Wen Fenglin and Oh Ming in the ward the day before. But, when were they going to start? Ding dong. When the doorbell rang, Yu Lily stood up in reflex, straightened her clothes, and walked toward the door. However, after walking out, he looked at the screen and saw a young girl who looked to be about 17 or 18 years old standing in front of the screen. She turned on the intercom and asked, "Who is this?" "Hello, miss Yu, can you open the door? A gentleman is looking for you." "Sir? Who is it?" Yu Lily felt a little strange. "Why don't you just look for me? Who is it?" He said his surname was Oh. Oh? Oh Ming? But, how was that possible? Where is he? Chapter 11:28. Yu Lily was a little surprised to see the overly young man standing outside. Oh Huijin resembled Oh Ming. If she hadn't known that he was Oh Ming's father, she would have thought he was Oh Ming's brother. Just by looking at their appearances, it was hard to tell the difference. Yu Lily's daze only lasted for a moment. She quickly snapped out of it and tapped on the screen to open the door. "Uncle, come in quickly." Oh Huijin hadn't expected such a reaction from Yu Lily. He had thought that she would blame him coldly and ask him what he was doing there. To prevent his wife from being humiliated, Oh Huijin had specifically stopped Xiao Ziqing from coming in. But, it was clear that the girl was not what he had imagined. Oh Huijin's eyes flashed. He was satisfied. He walked in and asked, "Do you live alone?" Yu Lily was stunned. She quickly shook her head and said, "No. No, I live with my colleagues." "Oh. I see." Oh Huijin walked in and asked, "Do you need to change your shoes?" "No, uncle, you can come in directly. Sit down. Would you like some coffee?" "You're welcome. I'm actually here today because I have something to discuss with you." Oh Huijin walked in, but he had no intention of sitting down. Yu Lily could vaguely guess what it was. She asked, "Is it about Oh Ming?" "Yes." Oh Huijin looked at Yu Lily, paying attention to her expression. "My son was in a car accident yesterday. As you know, the situation isn't looking good." Yu Lily tightened her grip on his hand and asked, "How is he?" "He has temporarily lost his sight due to blood loss," Oh Huijin said. "The doctor said that as long as he is in a good mood, he will have a chance of recovery." But lately, Ming has been in a bad mood. Huajin paused. He realized that Yu Lily didn't look surprised or surprised at all. I hope that you can go see him. Uncle, Yu Lily interrupted him. Your wife seems to have a very strong opinion of me. Yesterday, at the door of Ming's ward, Xiao Qiao is also very sorry about what happened yesterday. Yesterday, her words were not very pleasant to hear. But Miss Yu, you have to believe that all parents do everything for the sake of their children. My wife may have some misunderstandings about you. Why don't we go together and talk face to face? Huajin smiled. His eyes, which were identical to Ming's, looked at Yu Lily with deliberation. She knew that he was also worried that she would hurt Ming. How was Ming today? He's still in the hospital. He's in a bad mood and refuses to eat. He hasn't eaten anything since yesterday and has been relying on an infusion. If this goes on, we're afraid he won't be able to take it. Speaking of his son's situation, Huajin felt a headache coming on. He wants to see you now. He's been looking for you since yesterday. Let's go together. What about Ming's mother? It was her idea. Huajin knew that she was hesitating and said, she knew that she was being too harsh with her words. You've been with Ming for so long, so you should know his temper. His mother's temper is exactly the same as his. They both have sharp tongues but soft hearts. They don't have much ill will toward you. Chapter 1129. Yu Lily was more sensible than Huajin had imagined. At the same time, Huajin was much friendlier than she had imagined. She followed Huajin downstairs and sat in the back seat. Miss Yu, are you an orphan? Yes, uncle. I heard that you are not only working for Ming's comic company, but you are also drawing comics. Is that right? Yes, uncle. Are you tired? Not at all. Yu Lily smiled. Actually, any job is the same. You just have to get used to it. Drawing was originally just a hobby of mine. Huajin looked at Yu Lily through the rearview mirror and nodded his head. In a satisfied tone, he said, it's not bad for a young person to have such thoughts, but you don't seem like an orphan. I know quite a few orphans, and they are all extreme and cynical. In comparison, you are much better. The compliment caught Yu Lily off guard and made her a little surprised. Yu Lily blushed. She didn't know how to respond. When Huajin saw this, he smiled and asked, when did you meet Ming? We've known each other for many years. About 7 or 8 years ago, when I had just finished my college entrance examination. As Yu Lily spoke, she subconsciously glanced at Huajin. If Huajin wanted to investigate these matters, he could definitely do so. Just like the last time she had met Xiao Ziqing knew everything about her background. But, why was he asking her now? Could it be that whatever Xiao Ziqing knew, Ming's father didn't? Or could it be that Ming's father just wanted to test him? Huajin acted as if he hadn't noticed Yu Lily's probing gaze. He looked straight ahead and asked, he went to your school to pursue you? As Huajin asked the question, he inadvertently saw Yu Lily's awkward expression in the rearview mirror. He immediately said, I'm just a little curious. After all, Ming has never told his parents about his girlfriend. If you find it inconvenient to answer, you don't have to. It's fine. When Yu Lily heard that, she felt that Huajin's temper was much better than Ming's and his mother's. After thinking about it, Yu Lily said, in fact, there's nothing to hide. About 7 or 8 years ago, I was admitted to college, but I didn't have any tuition to pay for it. When I was in a hurry to find a job, I was brought to a nightclub by a woman I knew. At that time, I didn't know what kind of job she was taking me to. When I realized it, I wanted to run away, but the manager and that sister refused to let me go. Ming seemed to have seen through me, so he picked me up. Then, he brought me home, helped me pay for my tuition, supported me to go to school. Then, we got together. It was a bit embarrassing to talk about such a past. After all, in the eyes of others, such a matter was undoubtedly very embarrassing. Yu Lily's heart was beating fast, and she felt a little nervous. If it had been Oh Ming's mother, Yu Lily believed that she would definitely have scolded her. How could you have the nerve to say such a thing? Do you have any shame? But, what about Oh Ming's father? What would he think? Yu Lily looked up at the rear-view mirror. She wanted to see Oh Huijin's reaction. Chapter 11:30. It's nothing. I had a rough guess, but it was a little different from what I expected. Oh Huijin drove steadily. You're 6 years younger than our Oh Ming? 7. Oh Huijin nodded his head and said, no wonder Oh Ming's mother always felt that you were lying to her son. You are indeed a little too young. When Yu Lily heard that, she muttered to herself, Oh Ming's mother isn't just worried that I'll lie to her son. She's worried about me as a person and even despises my identity and background. Yu Lily's heart was as clear as a mirror. She looked at Oh Huijin through the rear-view mirror, but she couldn't see anything. This guy probably knew about it too, but at this time, she was still useful to them, so he didn't expose her, right? However, she had to admit that Oh Ming's father's attitude made her feel quite comfortable. They soon arrived at the hospital. Oh Huijin dropped Yu Lily off at the entrance and let her in first. Then, he parked his car. Yu Lily was nervous all the way, and there were countless ideas in her mind. If Oh Ming's mother scolded her again, should she just turn around and leave? If Oh Ming's mother didn't let her in, should she just turn around and leave? Before she reached the door, she saw Qiao Ziqing and Wen Fenglin standing together. As if they had heard the footsteps, the two of them turned around to look at him. When Yu Lily saw them, she grabbed her sleeves and walked over nervously. Hello, Auntie. Hello, Uncle Wen. When Wen Fenglin heard that, a smile broke out on his face. 2 deep dimples appeared on his cheeks. He nodded his head and said, Hello, you're here. Yu Lily nodded her head. She glanced at Qiao Ziqing and said, He's here. Qiao Ziqing only glanced at him. She didn't say anything, nor did she express her opinion. She nodded in return and stood there silently. Yu Lily felt even more perturbed. This. What did she mean? Wen Fenglin waved at her and said, Come on in. Have you eaten? There's food inside for 2. It's just right for you to eat with Oh Ming. Yes. Yu Lily subconsciously glanced at Qiao Ziqing. Qiao Ziqing also looked at her, but she didn't say anything. Yu Lily gently pushed open the door of the ward. After closing the door behind her, she quietly walked over to the bedside. Oh Ming was wearing a hospital gown and covered with a thick blanket. He was lying on the bed with his back to the door. She deliberately slowed down her pace and walked over to stand in front of him. Before she could speak, Oh Ming said, Help me up. Yu Lily put the bag aside and went forward to help him up without saying a word. However, Oh Ming was heavier than she had imagined. Yu Lily's face turned red, and it took a lot of effort to lift him up. Not a single sound was made during the entire process. Oh Ming's lips curled up slightly as he said, Sit down. Yu Lily didn't move. She waved her finger in front of his face. Judging from his reaction, could it be that he already knew who she was? But she didn't make a sound, not even her footsteps. How did he recognize her? Oh Ming reached out and firmly grasped her hand. He gently pulled it to his lips and kissed it. Sit down and feed me. Yu Lily retracted her hand and deliberately lowered her voice. Sir, please conduct yourself with dignity. I'm a nurse here. Chapter 11:31. Yu Lily pushed him away and said angrily, Pervert, why do you want everything? Oh Ming chuckled and pulled her over. Because it's you. Yu Lily lost all her temper after hearing such a joke. Oh Ming's smile deepened, and his eyes curved into two beautiful half-arcs. However, his eyes still looked a little lifeless and empty. Yu Lily sat down and said with some displeasure, "Do you know who I am?" "My Yu Lily." "Who's yours?" "You." Yu Lily was even more unhappy. She sneered, but her tone was much softer. She looked at his forehead and face wrapped in white gauze and asked, "Does it still hurt?" "It hurts," Oh Ming answered honestly. "But I'm very hungry. Let's eat first." "Humph." Yu Lily turned around to open a cardboard box and asked, "You really haven't eaten anything since yesterday? Wasn't it supposed to be an act?" Could it be that Oh Ming was serious? Yeah. Oh Ming's eyes were unfocused. He looked down, but his ear was still in Yu Lily's direction. He asked, "Did my father pick you up just now?" "Yeah," Yu Lily answered as she opened the cardboard box and took out the thermos inside. "Did he say anything?" "No, he just asked some questions, such as when we met, how old I am, and so on." "You told him how we met?" Yu Lily paused and took apart the disposable chopsticks. Her eyes dimmed and she said, "I told him the truth." Oh Ming was a little surprised and asked, "You told him?" "Yeah. I thought you wouldn't say it." After all, the past didn't seem to be very good for Yu Lily. Every time she mentioned it to her friends, Yu Lily would vaguely brush it off. She didn't lie, and she didn't tell the truth. After a long time, Oh Ming understood what she meant. But, she actually told the truth to his father? That was far beyond Oh Ming's expectations. Shouldn't he be hiding things from his father and saying nice things instead? Yu Lily came over with the thermos and said, "Even if I don't tell the truth, can't your father check it himself? Tell the truth and you'll be treated leniently. If he didn't tell the truth, it would be even more embarrassing if he was found out." Yu Lily scooped a spoonful of soup and blew on it before saying, "Drink some soup first. It's a little hot." Oh Ming didn't move. Yu Lily brought the spoon to his mouth. Oh Ming felt the warmth, so he opened his mouth slightly and drank the soup. "You drink it too." "My aunt made it. It's delicious." Yu Lily smelled it and knew it was delicious. She scooped up a spoonful and tasted it. Her eyes lit up. Great. She used to be a chef, specializing in making soup. Later, because my mother liked her skills, my father poached her to be our private chef. She has been doing this for more than 10 years. She suddenly thought of Oh Ming's mother's temper and his father's temper. Did it mean that Oh Ming's mother's temper was spoiled by Oh Ming's father? It was true that Oh Ming's father had a good temper, but it was unexpected that he was so affectionate. Yu Lily's eyes were filled with envy. She scooped another spoonful of soup for him and said, "Aren't you tired of eating it for so many years?" Chapter 1132. She paused in the act of feeding him soup and looked at Oh Ming. She didn't know why, but she felt that Oh Ming's words had a double meaning. Does that mean that he will continue and that he will always be with me? Thinking of that, Yu Lily's lips involuntarily curled up. She placed the soup bowl back on the table and covered it with a lid. She brought the rice over and deliberately said in a serious tone, "Eat." Outside the ward, Oh Ming's parents were looking in through the window. When they saw the smile on Yu Lily's face, they were both experienced and had already grasped Yu Lily's emotions. From the looks of it, this girl really did have feelings for Oh Ming. Moreover, this feeling was much deeper than the two of them had imagined. Seeing that Oh Ming was finally willing to eat, Xiao Ziqing's eyes welled up. At the same time, she felt an indescribable sense of jealousy. I'm Oh Ming's mother who raised him for more than 30 years. Why would Oh Ming listen to her and not me? When Oh Huijin heard Xiao Ziqing's words, he couldn't help but laugh. He gently hooked his arm around her and said, "Children have their own blessings. Your son's taste has always been pickier than mine since he was young. It's not like you didn't know that. Xiao Ziqing was about to reply when she suddenly thought of something. She turned to look at her husband and said with some dissatisfaction, "Are you saying that I'm not as good as that girl?" "No, don't overthink it." Oh Huijin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "When did I say that?" "You didn't. You clearly said that our son's taste was more picky than yours. Are you saying that I'm not as good as her?" Xiao Ziqing reached out and pinched Oh Huijin's waist. "No, no. If I had good taste back then, why wouldn't I have married you? I only realized how good you were after we got married. After all these years, there hasn't been a day that I haven't regretted it. How could I have been so blind back then?" Xiao Ziqing was overjoyed when she heard that. She snorted and said, "Old man, your son is already so big. Take it easy." With that, she turned and walked away. Oh Huijin immediately followed. "Where are you going?" "To eat. Aren't you hungry?" In other words, she was handing her son over completely to you, Lily. Oh Huijin looked at her back and felt a little helpless. Then, as if remembering something, he asked, "Where's Lao Wen?" "I don't know. Give him a call." Xiao Ziqing continued walking without stopping. Oh Huijin picked up his phone to call Wen Fenglin, but no one picked up. Seeing that Xiao Ziqing had already walked far away, Oh Huijin hurried after her. At the same time, in the opposite direction behind them, there was a stairwell with an unlatched door. The melodious and urgent ringtone of a cell phone rang incessantly. The ringtone sounded muffled, as if it was stuck in his pocket. Wen Fenglin was lying on the ground. His eyes were half closed, and his hand was stretched out over his head. A small section of the cigarette was still burning, giving off smoke. When he heard the ringtone, Wen Fenglin tried his best to reach for his phone, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't pull it out. When he finally took out his phone, the ringtone had abruptly stopped. Wen Fenglin unlocked the phone with his fingerprint. Just as he was about to call Oh Huijin back, another call came in. He pressed the button and ended the call. Wen Fenglin suddenly felt like laughing, but his consciousness was becoming more and more blurry. He opened his mouth, but all that came out was a mosquito-like cry for help. "Help, dash." Chapter 1133. In the ward, Yu Lily was feeding Oh Ming. At the same time, she was eating from a lunchbox. As she ate, she asked, "Are you full? I want to drink soup." Oh Ming's tone was like a child talking to an adult. He gently placed his hand on her leg to prevent her from running away and not being able to feel her presence. Yu Lily moved his hand away and said, "I'll go get it." She turned around and returned with the soup bowl. She found Oh Ming listening to her movements with his ear to the side. "What are you doing?" Yu Lily sat back on the bed. "I'm trying to see if I can hear what you're doing. I've heard that there's a blind man who's really amazing. Not only can he hear what his wife is doing, but he also knows exactly where she is and does whatever he wants." "Wife," Yu Lily smiled and said, "I'm afraid he won't be able to see for many years. Do you want to get better? Don't speak. I'll listen for a while." Oh Ming reached out with his uninjured hand. Yu Lily saw his hand reach out, and her eyes darkened. She took 2 steps forward and pushed the hem of her jacket forward. Hearing the faint sound in front of him, Oh Ming reached out and firmly grasped the hem of Yu Lily's jacket. The hem of the down jacket felt good to the touch. Oh Ming's expression was one of triumph. "See, I'm still very amazing. Even if I can't see in the future, I can still find you with my hearing." Yu Lily's heart ached. She smiled and said, "Really? Why don't you try again later?" Oh Ming didn't let go of the hem of her jacket. He pulled her gently and said, "Yu Lily, I don't know what my father told you, but the doctor said that the worst-case scenario is that I might not be able to see for the rest of my life. It's very likely that I'll be blind and never see you again. Are you sure you still want to be with me? This was the most realistic problem, and it was also the problem that Ming had been most worried about for the past 2 days. When Yu Lily heard that, she looked at his face. There wasn't much expression on Ming's face. His eyes were empty and lifeless. He was looking down and slightly tilting his head to listen. His hand gripped the hem of her clothes tightly. Yu Lily reached out and gently placed her hand on his. When she was about to speak, she heard him say, "I have already prepared for the worst. I don't want to hide it from you, nor do I want to lie to you. Yu Lily, it is very likely that I will lose my ability to work in the future. My father is getting old. In the future, he might not be as glorious as he was today. Is that okay?" Hearing that, Yu Lily tightened her grip on him. She reached out her hand angrily and pressed lightly on the place where his bone was fractured. "Ah!" Ming screamed in pain and frowned. "Does it hurt?" "It hurts." Ming shouted. "Serves you right." Yu Lily pressed it again. "What do you mean? Do you think I'm with you just because you have money?" When Ming heard that, he felt a little suffocated. Even if it wasn't the whole reason, it was probably a large part of the reason. Chapter 1134. Ming smiled. "What kind of performance are you talking about?" Yu Lily replied, "What kind of thoughts are you having in your head?" "I didn't say anything." "What are you thinking about?" Ming looked innocent. He touched his chin with a troubled expression and said, "It's not convenient for me to do it now. Why don't I lie down and you do it yourself?" Yu Lily's face reddened. She reached out and pinched his uninjured arm. "We're in the hospital," she scolded. Ming laughed out loud when he heard that. The atmosphere in the ward was so good that happiness was fermenting. At the same time, the door of the ward was knocked twice and opened. A young nurse walked in. When she saw Yu Lily, she said, "Miss, there's an uncle with his hair tied up. He looks to be in his 50s. Is he your family member?" "His hair tied up? In his 50s? Wen Fenglin? What's wrong?" "This uncle fainted in the stairwell due to coronary heart disease. Our medical staff found him and sent him for emergency treatment. If he's your family member, please come over." "Fainted?" Yu Lily was shocked. She put the soup bowl back and asked, "How is he now?" "I'm not too sure. Come with me." "Oh, okay. I'll be right back." Yu Lily put the things back and wanted to walk away, but she found that Ming was holding her clothes tightly. Yu Lily felt helpless. She removed Ming's hand and coaxed him in a low voice, "I'll come back later. I'm going to see Uncle Wen." "Are you coaxing a child?" Ming was even more unhappy, but he still let go of her clothes and said, "Come back soon. I haven't had any soup." "Okay." Yu Lily kissed him gently on the cheek and released him. Ming wasn't willing to let her go. He grabbed her hand and said, "Kiss. I'm going to see Uncle Wen." "Kiss." Ming's words were childish. He looked like he was acting coquettishly. Yu Lily glanced at the nurse, and her cheeks heated up. She quickly lowered her head and planted a kiss on Ming's lips before walking out. The nurse looked at Yu Lily ambiguously, and her cheeks became hotter and hotter. He pretended that he hadn't seen anything and followed her in the direction of Wen Fenglin with a calm demeanor. When they arrived, they learned that Wen Fenglin's condition wasn't too optimistic. In the emergency room, the doctors and nurses were busy. Yu Lily paced back and forth in front of the emergency room, and a nurse came up to her. "This is the patient's cell phone. You can call the other family members. This matter can be big or small. We can't guarantee anything." Yu Lily took it and nodded her head. "Thank you." As soon as Yu Lily got the phone, she recognized it at a glance. It was his other phone. The nurse's words could not be clearer. With Wen Fenglin's current condition, it would be a miracle if he could be saved. If he couldn't be saved, it was better to inform his family. Yu Lily opened the phone and found that there was no password at all. It was an old-fashioned phone, probably a popular model 2 or 3 years ago. It was popular for a period of time, but it has long since been discontinued. She hadn't expected Wen Fenglin to be so nostalgic. When she opened the phone, she realized that it was lagging. She opened the contact list and saw that there were quite a number of calls. There were at least 40 to 50 calls. However, there wasn't a single name or note that she suspected belonged to his family. Chapter 1135. There was only one symbol on the last number. It was the symbol of a house. Yu Lily recognized the symbol. It meant home. She unlocked the phone and dialed the number. The caller was from a small city in Kong Province. It wasn't far from the provincial capital, Kingstown. Yu Lily had stayed there for a period of time when she was traveling. It was a nice little city. The call was quickly answered by an old woman. She sounded shaky and excited. She shouted, "Hello, Lao Wu. Is this me, Lao Wu? Have you come back from home?" She was speaking in Cantonese. Yu Lily understood. Lao Wu? Was Wen Fenglin the 5th child in his family? Yu Lily cleared her throat and asked, "Hello, do you know Wen Fenglin? Are you from the side? Do you know how to use my Lao Wu's phone to call my house?" I'm Uncle Wen's friend. My name is Yu Lily. May I know how you are related to Uncle Wen?" "Hold on. I'll get my grandson to talk to you," the old woman shouted. As the old woman spoke, she shouted, "Jiu, come and answer the phone. It's your 5th uncle." Yu Lily could clearly hear footsteps coming from the other end of the line. A young man's voice could be heard. "Hello, 5th uncle?" The voice sounded like he was in his mid-20s. "Very young. I'm not 5th uncle. Do you know Wen Fenglin? He's 5th uncle. We're in Kingstown now, and he's in the hospital. He's suffering from coronary heart disease. Would you like to come over?" There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. The old woman asked, "Is that okay?" The young man's voice could be heard again. "Did my uncle ask you to make this call?" "No, he's in the emergency room," Yu Lily said. "I thought I should call his family, so I got it." "Which hospital is it?" "I'll head over right away." "What's your relationship with my uncle?" "We can be considered friends, all right. Thank you for informing us. Give me the address. I'll jot it down." Yu Lily gave the address, and the call was hung up. About 10 minutes later, the door to the emergency room was opened. When the doctors and nurses came out, Yu Lily rushed forward and asked, "How is it?" Fortunately, it was a close shave, but he still needs to be observed. He needs to stay in the ICU. Go pay the fee. She breathed a sigh of relief and nodded. After paying the bill, Wen Fenglin's phone started to vibrate. But this time, it was a cell phone number. Sure enough, it was the young man from before. "Hello, Mississippi. My name is Wen Jiu. What's your phone number? Let me make a note to not use my uncle's phone to contact you later. I'm afraid he'll blame you." "Why?" Yu Lily was a little surprised, but she quickly thought of something and said, "Uncle Wen has been rescued now." The doctor said it was a close shave. Wen Jiu also seemed relieved and said, "That's good. I'll be there in about an hour. Don't tell my uncle that I'm here. Delete the call history." "Thank you." Yu Lily was dumbfounded. They were both surnamed Wen. Wen Jiu must really be Wen Fenglin's nephew, right? Why was he acting like a thief? Chapter 1136. From his tone, it was clear that he was worried. It couldn't be Wen Fenglin's enemy. Yu Lily thought about it and deleted the record as she was told. When she arrived at Wen Fenglin's ward, she walked in. His heartbeat was normal, but his face was pale. His eyes were closed, and he looked like he was in a coma. Yu Lily placed her phone on the side of his bed. Just as she put it down, she heard the phone vibrate. The sound was particularly abrupt in the silence. It gave Yu Lily a fright. She quickly picked up the phone. When she saw the caller, she answered and called out, "Uncle O." When O Huijin heard Yu Lily's voice, he was equally surprised. He asked, "Why is it you? Where's Lao Wen?" "Uncle Wen just fainted in the stairwell. He was sent to the ER and just came out." O Huijin's heart skipped a beat. How did this happen? What's the situation now? Not too bad. It was a close shave, Yu Lily said. Which room? After Yu Lily gave the room number, she hung up the phone. When she turned her head, she saw Wen Fenglin looking at her. Yu Lily was shocked. She glanced down at the cell phone in her hand and smiled sheepishly. With a guilty conscience, she said, "It's O Ming's father. He's asking about your situation." Yu Lily was shocked. Wen Fenglin nodded his head slightly and asked in a small voice, "Did you save me?" "No, the doctor found you when he passed by, so he sent you to the ER. I was called over by the nurse later." Yu Lily felt a little uneasy as she said, "Uncle Wen, are you not on good terms with your family?" When Wen Fenglin heard that, he looked at Yu Lily strangely and said, "I don't have any family. Have you forgotten? Everyone calls me a poor wandering artist." With that, Wen Fenglin laughed. His white hair was spread across the pillow. Without his glasses, his eyes were small. On his pale face, 2 deep dimples appeared on both sides of his cheeks. Yu Lily felt a little awkward. It turned out that Uncle Wen's relationship with his family wasn't as simple as that. From the looks of it, she had done something bad out of good intentions. A very, very, very bad thing. What should I do? With a strange expression on her face, Yu Lily looked up at Wen Fenglin and said, "Uncle Wen, leniency to those who confess, severity to those who resist." Yu Lily was about to confess when her phone suddenly rang. Yu Lily cursed inwardly. She picked up the phone and looked at it. The caller ID was indeed from Zhuang City. In other words, it belonged to Wen Fenglin's nephew. Yu Lily was a little embarrassed and said, "I'll go take a call." As he spoke, he ran out of the door and closed the door before answering the call. "Miss Yu, which ward is it? I'll go there in a moment." "No need, no need. You don't have to come over." Yu Lily wished she could strangle herself to death. "Mr. Wen, can you tell me what happened between your family and Uncle Wen? Or is there any history between them?" After a moment of silence, Wen Huijin said, "Do you mean that you don't want me to see my uncle?" Chapter 1137. Wen Huijin did not speak. She could hear the sound of cars honking around them. Yu Lily felt that she was a scapegoat. Feeling a little guilty and nervous, she said, "You'd better not come. This is my fault. I'm sorry. Let's just pretend that it never happened. Actually, there's a reason for this. Why don't we meet up and talk about it, then you can decide whether or not to let me see my uncle. What do you think?" Wen Huijin sounded like he was discussing it, but his tone made it sound like Yu Lily would definitely agree to it. This made Yu Lily a little uncomfortable. Indeed, she was very curious as to why Wen Fenglin had become a wandering artist. She was also very curious as to why he had such a huge feud with his family. But that wouldn't do. Yu Lily had no right to do that. At most, she was just a stranger who had met Wen Fenglin by chance. Furthermore, Wen Fenglin had helped her a lot. If Wen Fenglin didn't want to see Wen Hezhou at all and was lured there by her, now this was awkward. Yu Lily was perturbed. At that moment, she was filled with remorse. She immediately rejected the offer and said, "Forget it, Mr. Wen. I'm not interested. Uncle Wen is very good to me. I can't cheat him. Miss Yu, you're helping him." Wen Hezhou sounded a little helpless as she said, "Or you could tell him that his father has Alzheimer's disease and talks about him every day. I'm afraid he doesn't have much time left. I hope he can go back and see the old man." The determination in Yu Lily's heart suddenly wavered. She couldn't help but ask, "What exactly happened?" "My father also misses him very much. Fifth uncle is at our house. Hey, let's meet and talk. Fifth uncle has a misunderstanding with our family, and it's hard to explain it in a short time. If you don't want to see me in the hospital, then we can meet at a coffee shop or somewhere else to sit down and talk." "No, no, no. I'm sorry. I was too reckless. You should go back. Goodbye." Yu Lily hung up the phone and walked downstairs. She instructed the receptionist not to reveal Wen Fenglin's room number before returning to Wen Fenglin's room. Yu Lily felt guilty and anxious. He suddenly felt as if he had done something unforgivable. Initially, since Wen Fenglin was undergoing emergency treatment, it was out of goodwill to inform his family. After all, fainting from coronary heart disease could be a serious matter. Unexpectedly, there was such a layer in between. "If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have listened to that nurse. What should I do?" Feeling apprehensive, he pushed open the door and walked in. Wen Fenglin looked over at the same time. Yu Lily was a little nervous and asked, "Do you want some water? Are you hungry?" Wen Fenglin shook his head and beckoned her over. "Come here for a moment." She walked over and sat down on the stool beside the bed. "Why are you suddenly asking about my family?" Wen Fenglin asked. Yu Lily looked away guiltily and said, "I'm just curious, haha." Wen Fenglin chuckled. "Actually, I seem to have said something to someone just now." "Was it you? What did he say?" "Don't call me family." Wen Fenglin looked at Yu Lily and sighed. "Is that you?" Chapter 1138. Wen Fenglin laughed and asked, "Can you pour me a glass of water?" Yu Lily quickly got up and poured him a glass of warm water. She put it on the table and carefully helped him up. "I'll do it myself. I'll do it myself." Wen Fenglin waved his hand and sat up. He reached out to take the water from Yu Lily. Yu Lily reached over and handed the cup to him, but she didn't dare to move her hand away. She was afraid that the water on the cup would spill. Fortunately, Wen Fenglin's hand was still steady. After he finished drinking, he laughed and said, "Don't worry, it's not a big deal. Go back to O Ming's side. I'll sleep for a while." So, after changing the topic, he just had to chase her away. Yu Lily was well aware of that. She tossed the cup aside and nodded her head. On the way back to O Ming's ward, she ran into O Huijin and his wife. After greeting them, she told them about Wen Fenglin's condition before returning to O Ming's room. The sky began to darken. Today was the second day of the new year. There were not many people in the hospital, and the surroundings seemed a little empty. When she pushed open the door of the ward, O Ming was not in bed. Yu Lily was shocked and called out, "O Ming?" O Ming's voice didn't come out. Instead, there was the sound of something falling to the ground. Yu Lily followed the sound and saw that it was coming from the bathroom in the ward. Yu Lily quickly walked over and pushed the bathroom door open. "Oh!" she yelled. O Ming was next to the washstand. His uninjured hand touched the washstand. On the floor, a jar of hand sanitizer fell. O Ming pursed his lips when he heard Yu Lily's voice. "What are you doing here? Wash your hands?" I'm going to the bathroom, Oh Ming said. His hand, which was still covered in bubbles, reached out to touch Yu Lily. But he didn't know where the toilet was, so he could only stand there and wash his hands. He found a toothbrush, rinsed his mouth, and brushed his teeth. He hadn't expected Yu Lily to return so soon. Are you going to pee here? Yu Lily didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This is the sink. Come, I'll take you there. Oh Ming felt a little embarrassed. He coughed and said, Wait a minute, my clothes. Yu Lily looked down at his clothes and found that the front of his body was wet. He was wearing a thin hospital gown, and he didn't even have a coat on. Like a playful child, Oh Ming seemed to be at a loss at the moment. Yu Lily looked up and saw his somewhat embarrassed face. Her heart was inexplicably sour. Taking off the down jacket, Yu Lily gently placed it on his shoulder and said, Go to the bathroom first, then change your clothes. It would be good if he didn't hold it in. It seemed that Oh Ming hadn't relieved himself yet. Yu Lily helped him to the bathroom. Just as she was about to help him take off his pants, he pushed her hand away. Pursing his lips, he said, I'll do it myself. Turn around. Yu Lily's eyes became hot. After a sound of agreement, she turned her back to him and didn't look at him. It was dark in front of Oh Ming. He bent down and reached out to confirm the position of the toilet bowl before he began to remove it. Unbeknownst to him, Yu Lily, who was behind him, saw his jerky and confused movements, and her eyes were already red. Yu Lily helped him to the sink. After washing his hands, she brought him back to the side of the bed. Their movements were careful, and no one spoke first. Chapter 1139. But Oh Ming's hand was a little inconvenient. Yu Lily helped him change his pants first, then spent a lot of effort to help him change his shirt. Oh Ming didn't say a word. After Yu Lily helped him fasten the last button, he pulled her into his arms with his uninjured arm. Yu Lily was stunned, but very quickly, she obediently leaned on his shoulder and gently hugged him. Yu Lily. Oh Ming's voice was a little hoarse, and he sounded a little depressed. Yu Lily's heart trembled slightly. She hugged him tightly and answered, Yeah, I'm here. I want to be discharged from the hospital. Go and find my parents. Discharged? How can you be discharged at this time? Yu Lily looked at his hand in a cast and frowned. It's okay. It's not a big problem. Besides, we have a family doctor at home. We can invite him over when the time comes. Oh Ming gently pushed her away and said, Go. Yu Lily looked at him and knew that he must be in a very bad mood. But, this was the first time that Yu Lily had seen Oh Ming like this. He was a little depressed and a little frustrated. He was no longer confident, no longer flamboyant, and even no longer looked calm. This matter had a great impact on him. What Oh Ming had lost was not just his sight. Yu Lily's heart seemed to be blocked by something. She looked at him deeply, nodded faintly, turned around, and walked toward the door. But, she didn't go out. Instead, she slowly stepped back and faced Oh Ming. After taking a few steps, she didn't move anymore. Oh Ming seemed to listen for a while. When he found that there was no sound, his whole body relaxed. He touched the back of his neck and moved back with one hand. He reached out to touch the bedside table, but as soon as his hand touched it, he touched a thermos flask. It suddenly rolled down and made a loud sound in a low voice. Yu Lily subconsciously wanted to go forward, but reason quickly stopped her, and she abruptly stopped in her tracks. Oh Ming retracted his hand slightly and quickly touched the bedside table again. What is he looking for? Yu Lily wanted to ask him, but she didn't dare to go forward. But, after Oh Ming searched around and didn't find what he was looking for, he retracted his hand. Feeling a little frustrated, he lay on the bed. Turning around, with his back to the door, Yu Lily couldn't see his expression. What was he trying to do? Yu Lily was so curious that she wanted to ask him to solve the problem and help him find it, but she was worried that she would hurt his feelings. Yu Lily stood in the same spot for a long time. Just as she was about to turn around and walk out, she heard the sound of heavy breathing. He turned his head and saw that the body wrapped in the white bedsheet was trembling slightly. The range was not large, but it did exist. Is he crying? When Yu Lily realized this, she felt as if something had hit her heart hard, and the pain reached her eyes. The warm liquid came up, and Yu Lily didn't dare to stay. She gently walked out, opened and closed the door, and her movements were very, very gentle. However, on the bed, Oh Ming's back stiffened. He closed his eyes and didn't move. She walked out and headed straight for Wen Fenglin's ward. Oh Huijin and Xiao Ziqing were both there. When they saw Yu Lily enter, they were a little surprised. Yu Lily looked around and politely greeted, "Uncle, Auntie." Chapter 1140. Wen Fenglin's complexion and spirits were much better than before. He had tied up his hair and put on his glasses. He looked no different from his usual self. He had a clean demeanor and a warm smile. Wen Fenglin replied, "I'm much better. Thank you, Mississippi. How is Oh Ming?" Yu Lily recalled how Oh Ming had been trembling with his back turned to her. Her heart ached, and her eyes burned. She nodded her head and replied, "He's fine." She looked up at Oh Huijin and his wife and said, "Uncle and Auntie, Oh Ming wishes to be discharged from the hospital and return home to recuperate." "No." Xiao Ziqing panicked. "How can he do that? His injuries are serious. The doctors and nurses in the hospital have to take care of him at all times. If he stays at home, what if something happens?" "That won't happen," Yu Lily shook her head. Her eyelids drooped. She was in low spirits. Actually, the most important factor in recuperating is one's mood. There are too many restrictions in the hospital. I wish to bring him home to recuperate. Perhaps. As she spoke, her eyes reddened even more. She looked up and smiled. Didn't the doctor say that Oh Ming's eyes might recover at any time? If we cheer him up, he might recover even faster. Judging from the way Yu Lily spoke and the tone of her voice, it was clear that she had treated Oh Ming as one of her own. That tone of voice made Xiao Ziqing very unhappy. But, it was undeniable that what Yu Lily had said made sense. Oh Huijin nodded his head and said, "All right. In that case, come to our house. Miss Yu, if it's possible, I hope that you can move in with us. Our son likes you very much and is very reliant on you. Is that all right?" Although Oh Huijin's words were a question, his tone didn't imply it at all. When Xiao Ziqing heard that, she immediately replied, "Don't worry. We'll pay you, Auntie." Yu Lily's words were almost forced out of her mouth. She clenched her fists and said, "I think you might have misunderstood. I want to be with Oh Ming because I like him. I'm willing to be with him. Similarly, it doesn't matter if he's blind or disabled. I'll take care of him. To put it bluntly, if he dies in a car accident, I'll die with him." Oh Huijing felt that Xiao Ziqing's words were hurtful, but she hadn't expected Yu Lily to say them. Live and die together? Oh Huijing found it hard to believe. As for Xiao Ziqing, she found it extremely laughable. How long has it been since they started talking about life and death? Although Xiao Ziqing had such thoughts in her heart, she did not voice them out. When Yu Lily saw the expression on Xiao Ziqing's face, she could guess what was going on. Yu Lily felt a little angry, but at this critical juncture, she couldn't lose her temper. Looking at Xiao Ziqing, she forced a smile and said, "The reason is simple. I love him, I want to marry him, I want to be with him, that's all." "Miss Yu." Oh Huijin was just about to speak up for Xiao Ziqing when Yu Lily interrupted him. "Uncle, I've conveyed the message. I agree with Oh Ming's suggestion. I'll be discharged first and recuperate. That's more important than anything else. I'll be leaving first. Goodbye, Uncle Wen. Wen Fenglin smiled and nodded his head. Goodbye. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.